All right, we are live. Welcome to another episode of the 10 Horse Money YouTube channel, Monday Night Live. Got a good show for you. We're just talking to Bradley backstage, and me and Jonathan, or Jonathan and I. It's Jonathan and I. You got to say that right. Yeah. I always think of who was it? Thrift and Airy.
Yeah, Matt Airy. It was
Thrift's like
me and Matt,
and then Airy's like. Matt and I. Yeah. Anyway, we both got off the water earlier, and we're got to get used to fishing out in the cold. It wears you down. So
I tell you what, we pulled a Gabe though today. We started at like 10, didn't get off until dark.
That's nice.
I'm not used to that. I'm used to daylight to like 3, and you're 10 to dark.
Well, when it's freaking 23 degrees
I know.
8 o'clock in the morning.
When I walked outside this morning, I was so glad that Ron was like 10 o'clock.
Ron's laid back, man. He's retired and he can fish every day, so he's not in any hurry to get out there, which is super nice. So so on the other end of the camera we got Mr. Bradley Hallman. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, guys. How are y'all doing?
We are doing great. We're doing great. Looking forward to chatting with you this evening. Congratulations on qualifying for the elites, man.
Thank you, man. I'm
huge.
super excited, dude. Super excited for new opportunity and a new chapter and some new goals and mountains to climb.
Well, I got one question. Who's more excited, you or the wife?
Dude, I'll be real honest with y'all. My wife is not one of the wives that's like knows everything what her husband is doing and isn't doing. And she's happy. I know she's happy. She's happy. Let me tell you why she's happy. She's happy because the schedule is over in August, which means that I'll be home for all of the Oklahoma football games next year. I'll be able to set up her tailgate where all her friends get to come, and I'll be here to go down to Dallas for OU Texas, and I won't be all fishing tournaments in the opens in the fall next year. That's what she's happiest about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, it takes a team, though, right? I mean,
it does. You know, I mean, we've been married. We just had our 25th wedding anniversary, and I fished my whole life since we've known each other, and I think that she's an attorney. She's got her own law practice, and we're both kind of driven independently in our own ways and go different directions. And then, we meet back at the middle at the house with the kids, and she's very busy trying to accomplish her goals and climb her mountains the same that I am. And so there's a lot of give and take as far as trying to raise 4 children and both of us be that aggressive at what we're trying to do in life. So. I totally understand where she comes from. She's just not super interested in it, and she's just not totally dependent upon it either. So she's just got so much going on.
Yeah, that's good, man. It's good that the other person in the household is not depending on fishing to totally make your income, because fishing's hit and miss, man. So we posed a question out there. What should Bradley's walkout music be for the 2023 BassMaster Elites? Because I actually responded to that question on I think it was on your Facebook page, maybe your Instagram, but we got a bunch of suggestions. You got Russ says Back in Black by AC/DC, Country Boy Can't Survive, Back in the Saddle with Aerosmith, Just Keep Swimming. What else we got here? Welcome to the Jungle, GNR. It's a classic.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
Aaron Lewis, Country Boy. That's a good one.
Aaron Lewis, Country Boy.
So some of the things you got to think about in these. So like Country Boy Can't Survive. I'm pretty sure that's what Hackney comes out to. I had a guy send me some stuff that he'd actually made. Guy down in Louisiana. It's all rap music, and I mean it's real rap. It's not like a country rap. It's rap. But he's got this tune, dude, about Hackney, and I was like, Greg needs to come out to it. It's good.
It's about Hackney?
Oh yeah. The name of the song, any of the guys that are watching now, if you want to hear it or see it, it's on YouTube. You can look it up. It's just Google on YouTube, Set the Hook Like Hackney. Yeah. Set the Hook Like Hackney. That's the name of the song. It's freaking legit, dude.
Okay, I'll check it out.
I thought about sending it to Greg, but I haven't. I don't know if he's ever heard it, because there was like when this guy sent it to me, I was like, well, Hackney's heard that. It's only got like 57 or 60 something plays on YouTube, and it's been up there for a year and a half or so.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, Hack needs to use that. But he does come out to Country Boy Can't Survive, so he may not. I don't know.
Is there a list of the songs that the other anglers come out to?
No, I just know from watching them and being around them and being on the Elite Series and being on FLW Tour with them. Some of those guys come out too. Andy Morgan and Greg Hackney both use that song. Very fitting for both of them, I might say.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you don't want
to. What did you say? What did you say yours was?
I recommended Alice in Chains Rooster.
That's right.
I just like that song, man. I don't know if it really applies, but I just think that's a really good song.
It's got a really
I had Cody Jinks, Heavy and Loud.
So that's in my top 5. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Some of the ties that I have that I hang up on is like I really want it to be something Oklahoma. We've got, and when I say that, I'm not talking about like Boomer Sooner or something stupid. I'm talking not that I think Boomer Sooner's stupid. I just stupid for a walkout song. I just want something that's got Oklahoma roots to it, and we've got so much red dirt music here. I want to use some of that, and the Cody Jinks is in that genre, and I like him a lot. And Loud and Heavy is definitely a very good one.
He's got a bunch of good ones.
Yeah, he does. He's got a bunch of good ones. But he's from Texas, and we've got some Oklahoma bands, that have been around and are pretty famous in that genre as well. A bunch of the Oklahoma guys, and Turnpike Troubadours is one of them. CCR, we call them, but Cross Canadian Ragweed, which they're gone. But like Cross Canadian Ragweed, my daughter's best friend they just had their birthday party together as Ragsdale, the drummer from them. And then like Turnpike Troubadours, dude, I just went fishing with their lead guitarist like 3 days ago. We went to Arbuckle. So
sweet.
I need to do something with something Oklahoma.
Yeah. That song Diamonds and Gasoline. I love that song.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's some good stuff too.
They do. Good lyrics, man. Just good lyrics. That's such an art to write. I play music, and I've written a few songs, but gosh, it's hard to. Every word is so important in the song and the order that you put them in. I mean, because we're all thinking about the same things, but it's like, how do you articulate that thing that you're thinking about with a minimal amount of words? Because it's not a hip hop song like a rap song. I mean, they've got like, I don't see how those guys do it. I don't see how like hip hop artists remember all their lyrics. I mean, they'll have like 1,000 words in a song, where a typical, I don't want to say not pop, but a typical song that's not hip hop or rap may only have, 100 words in it or something. So each word is super important. You got to set the scene, and you got to, I don't know. It's just,
you got to tell a story a lot faster.
There's such an art with writing a good song, a good lyric.
I'm just amazed at how much red dirt and how far it's come. I mean, people all over the country listen to it now, and we tend to favor it over like what they play on the Nashville country stations. It's amazing that. So like Turnpike, for example, I just had that guy on my boat, and he's like, they just sold out the Cox Center down here in downtown Oklahoma City, where the Oklahoma City Thunder play. 15,000 seats. And he's like, dude, we're just a bar band. I'm like, y'all ain't a bar band anymore.
Not anymore.
That ship has sailed.
Right.
Yeah. That's cool.
But you don't hear a lot of that on country radio though, because that's not the the tune that they want to play out there. And it's all, I'm sure it's political just like everything else.
Yeah.
But
I think it's about money.
Yeah, Nashville controls a lot of that stuff for sure.
Who moved? What was this one? This is a good one. Who moved the rocks on the Red River to block Keith Poche? Dude, I honestly do not have a clue. I wish I did. I talked to Keith about it. He's got an idea. He's got some ideas, and I think Bass had some ideas, but I do not know who that is.
Yeah.
You still got them damn
good question.
crickets down here?
Yeah, I still got those crickets down there.
Oh, you need to feed that.
We got live crickets down here to feed my daughter's gecko.
Yeah.
And they start chiming off about right now. He didn't know they were in there last week.
I was looking at the wall and the ceiling, trying to figure out where this cricket was at.
So I can relate to that. We've got a dragon in the house, some kind of dragon.
Yeah, a bearded dragon.
Giant lizard, and we have to feed him crickets. He's my boys. So we got a lot of crickets too.
That lizard is. I was messing with him last night. I throw a couple of his crickets in there, and he comes out and he lunges at him. He's got his scope needs sighted in. I'll just put it that way. He's bad. I mean, he's like 1 for 10 on lunges. It's hilarious because he always smacks into something. He'll hit his head on the rock or the side of the glass, and
his towards is off. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. He's off kiltered.
Oh Lord.
So you are you an Oklahoma native?
So I've kind of got a funny story, life story. I divorced parents when I was young. Both my parents were originally from Oklahoma. My dad actually went to OSU at Stillwater, got an engineering degree right after Vietnam, and they moved to East Tennessee. He took a job with TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, and I was born out there and raised out there. But then my parents got divorced when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. And my mom moved back to Oklahoma while our family was, but my dad stayed there for work. And then he later remarried and stayed out there. And so I kind of grew up back and forth. So I was born in Harriman Hospital in East Tennessee in Roane County, and I graduated high school in Harriman. But a lot of that time in between, I was in Norman. So I was back and forth and back and forth. Summertime, I would stay with my dad if I was going to school with my mom. So I kind of got both worlds, really. It's almost like growing up in two places because they're so far apart and they're so different. They're different culturally. They're different landscape-wise. Obviously, Oklahoma's very flat. Tennessee, East Tennessee's very mountainous, and different cultures, different friends. So I got a lot of that. And then I came back to Oklahoma after I just graduated high school, and took a summer job. That's all I was doing. I took a summer job with a plumbing company, and I didn't leave that job for 13 years. That was a long summer job, but I worked there, and those guys tournament fished, and kind of got me started. And that's kind of where this all started. So all of my tournament fishing experience has always been Oklahoma, 100%.
Gotcha.
Did you fish growing up then, or was that?
Oh yeah, 100%. My dad was a fisherman. Well, grew up on Watts Bar. That's where Harriman is, the upper end of Watts Bar. So spent a lot of time on Watts Bar, spent a lot of time chasing trout and stuff around in the rivers and the mountains there in East Tennessee on the Clinch and over at Tellico. And my dad, anything that would bite, like we chased it. I can remember running trot lines and stuff like that, before he'd have to go to work in the morning. And we just did everything and anything that bites what he wanted to chase. But I just grew up watching Bassmaster like everybody else and getting Bassmaster magazine, and was just always, like everybody is, just in awe of it, and always wanted to do it. And then never had even fished a tournament, and moved here and started that summer job that turned into a lifelong career, 13-year career. But man, they were just really good people. And the people that I worked for were good. It was 4 brothers, the Hendrickses, and they owned it. And they all had a bunch of sons, and we were all about the same age, all of us. And we just kind of grew up working in that place together and fishing and hunting, and it was just a good fit. And I just never left. Of course, I met my wife pretty early here, and she's from Oklahoma. And like I said, my whole family was from Oklahoma. So the only tie I had to Tennessee was my dad and my 2 stepsisters and my stepmom out there. And that's really all I had in East Tennessee. So I always miss the mountains. Like, that's the one thing that it's like it's in your soul or something, dude. It's deep. Like, how they talk about how you can't take, you can take something out of the country or whatever, but you can't. Dude, those mountains never leave you. I don't know what it is about it, but man, they're strong.
Yeah, I know driving to Chickamauga from where we're at, we're just right outside of the Ozark Mountains. So we get a little bit of that, but as you head down south from here and you come down you kind of drop down in some of those valleys there. It's just beautiful. We go out west a lot too. We go out to the Rocky Mountains, and of course those are like next level out there compared to the Ozark Mountains and the what is that mountain range that runs through Tennessee? That's the
Appalachians.
Yeah, Appalachians. Mm-hmm. But they are definitely beautiful.
They are.
Oh, sure.
They are. And the people that are from them are tough and strong, and they've been through a lot, and generations back. And things don't come easy in the Appalachians for a lot of people, and it makes them very tough. It makes them, they're kind of cliquish, I guess is the word. Like, if you're not from there, you're never from there. Like, my dad had moved there at a very young age, right out of college, and he was, he had a lot of friends and was accepted. It's not like that, but he was never truly like one of them. But I was born there, and so it was like I was treated different than he was somewhat,
Huh.
And once you're kind of part of that clan, you're always part of that clan. Like, my blood will always run orange, and I will always be accepted there. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, you were talking about watching the Bassmasters and stuff. I've been on this kick watching the some of the old FLW, the BFL All-Americans,
Yeah.
They
like
just
what years?
2013 and 2014. I just finished watching the Nickajack one in 2013. And then I watched the 2014. I think that was on Wilson where Marcus Sikora won.
Yeah. I'm buddies with Marcus.
Man, I feel sorry for the boats and the jerseys and stuff that those people had to wear back then. The one guy was in like a bright yellow M&M's shirt.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And then Sikora was fishing out of a.
That's when they provided all the boats and the final day.
They don't do that anymore.
I don't know. I haven't watched.
We supplied the boats the whole tournament, guys. Like you flew to wherever they would fly you. It didn't matter what tournament it was. They flew there and there was 50 brand new Rangers there.
Well,
50.
I think did they get rid of it? I don't know if they did or not. I thought they had changed that after MLF had.
I bet it's different now, dude. It was incredible.
Because when we were fishing the BFLs as co-anglers, that was still the case. I mean, it was you got a brand new Ranger. The first day you showed up, or our first day of practice, official practice, you got into that Ranger.
That's right. Yep.
You tootle around and got used to that boat, and then you had your.
They paired you with somebody to practice with, so you'd have a boater and a co-angler in practice for one day, and then the next day was a tournament, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I heard it's like they roll out the red carpet for you there. I mean, you get flown in. They pay for your hotels for the week and all the food every day, everything.
Well,
they did so much. I mean, I went and I remember like I had my mom and I had my room. They got both of those, and then this family fisherman friend of mine, George Taylor, an older man, had called me and said, "I'm coming up, you know." And I said, "Well, let me just ask, you know, maybe there'll be some rooms here." I wasn't expecting them to pay it. I was just hoping maybe they could get a room in the hotel. Next thing I know, they handed me a key and said, "Here it is." And it was his for 3 nights. I mean, they took care of families. They took care of everybody.
What year was that?
2006 was my rookie year on the Elite Series. I was on the Elite Series whenever I qualified for the All-American. Maybe 2007 or 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many times did you make the All-American? Just once?
That was it. I had never made it. Here's a true story. So, like, man, that's a special thing. And most anglers that are worth something that make a career of fishing, like, you want these. Maybe I'm that way, but I want these things on my resume. And an All-American, I did not have. I hadn't qualified for it. I'd come close a few times, but I'd never made it. And then I fished the Opens and qualified for the Elite Series, and off I went. And it was just kind of something. My team partner, Larry Ray, had done it. And like all these people that I'm friends with and looked up to here at home had done it. And like, I wanted it. And I didn't have time to fish all those tournaments. And Jason Christie called me and he's like, "I got an idea for you, Bubba." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "You still want to make that All-American?" I said, "Yeah." And Jason said, "I've been looking at the rules and I was thinking about you." He said, "You could sign up for all of the Okie BFLs as a co-angler and not fish any of them, but just pay your money, $75 entry fee for everyone. And they're going to call you at the end of the year because you're going to qualify for the wild card. And they're going to ask you, do you want to fish as a boater or a co-angler?" And then you just tell them boater, and you show up to All-American, and he's like, "There'll be 300 or 400 boats there, but you know, it's a shot. And it's only 1 week. You got to be away from home." So I did that and it worked. I finished like second or third.
No kidding. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I know a lot of people do that. They'll pay for, you got to fish 2, but pay for all 5 of them now, I think it is.
Yeah, they changed the rule because of me, which is cool to have a rule for me. That's the only rule I've ever changed in my life. But
that's the Hallman rule, huh?
Yeah, the Hallman rule. Yeah, now you got to fish so many.
Well, it's funny that somebody called you, or Christy called you, and he's like,
"Yeah,
I know how you can do it."
Yeah. Well, he's a lot like me, right? I mean, we're goal oriented and we're looking at things that we want in our fishing history. And dude, making the All-American, you don't have to win it. You don't have to win it. Winning it's great, right? I mean, I'd love to be Jeremy Lawyer and have won it, but just qualifying, you know, that's not easy to do. That's hard. And we've all got a lot of respect for all the guys in the BFLs, and I do to this day. And I want some of that on my, you know, sleeves that I've done that.
Well, that All-American's made quite a few careers too.
100%. Yeah, I remember reading Joe Thomas's book after Joe had won it, and that's probably one of the best fishing books in in the business for many, many years. If you guys want to read old stuff, what was the name of that Pro Bass? You guys know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Joe Thomas book. Oh my gosh. You guys know who Joe Thomas is?
I do. I do know who Joe Thomas is. Yep.
So he started his career basically from winning the All-American. It kind of springboarded him, but I think Tucker wrote it. Tim Tucker.
Yeah.
And he's
I might have that book somewhere. I've got a Joe Thomas book somewhere.
Yeah, it's Joe Thomas, Tim Tucker, and I believe it's maybe somebody will chat in here on the live.
Is it a diary of?
Yes, Diary of a Bass Pro. Is that the name of it?
Yep. I had to get the old Google machine out, but yeah.
It's a must read, fellas. Must read. I bet it's better now today with all that time passed. He's talking about like it's like blogging today basically, but like he's at a tournament at Grand Lake, a BassMaster Open, and it's freezing outside. It's in like November, and his rod boxes are frozen shut. And he's talking about how he's having to get hot water out of the hotel and pour it down. I mean, this is to go fish the dang tournament. I mean, it's some really cool stuff.
Is he talk about Nickajack in there as well?
I believe so. Yeah,
I've got that book.
I've read it a couple times. It's a wonderful book.
I'm gonna find it here in a minute.
That's it. That's in my opinion, that's in the top 3 books written by pro bass fishermen or about pro bass fishermen. Shaw Grigsby's is just incredible too. It's called about something about pro bass fisherman in his life or his dad. It talks about him and his dad. It's when Shaw first starts out, and Shaw just tells stories. And Shaw's book is, I took it to him. I took a copy of his book to him when I was on the Elite Series to a meeting one day, just so he would autograph it for me.
Nice.
Like really, really cool book.
Let me see here. I'm gonna check some of these questions, see if we got something
Yeah,
coming up.
we're a little behind on those.
Yeah. Russ says, ask Hallman what his goal is for the 2023 fishing the elites to win a blue trophy, right?
Yeah. I would really like to start at Okeechobee. That's asking a lot, but I've got one here from Okeechobee behind me, and I would like to have a blue one beside it. But yeah, honestly, I just want to go. My goals are to like compete at a very high level, have a shot to make some, 3 or 4 final days out of 9 events. That'd be great. Qualify for the Classic, obviously, and take all my guys and fans along. Like I've got big plans for YouTube next year. That's different than what a lot of guys are doing. I learned a lot from that year of traveling with Scott Martin in the Opens and watching his production team and how he's going about that. And I'm going to do a lot of that. I'm planning on having a guy that's been working for me for the last 3 or 4 months with some of my editing on the road with us. I'm not going to change my style of YouTube. It's still going to be very organic. It's not going to be, the drone shot. And here's the boat putting in. I'm still not doing that. But I do want to carry everybody along and just kind of share the inside and the outside stories of it. So I guess my goals is to perform really well. On top of that, also grow my platform as far as my viewer base and all that with all the YouTube and social media.
Cool. That I want to touch on that Okeechobee tournament here in just a second. Because it affected me personally. Brock says, I have a question for Hallman. We met at Eufaula this year. If he were to clinically diagnose, I'm wanting to know the level 1 through 10 of ADD he thinks you would diagnose Castledine with.
Well, I've got 2 children in the house that have it of my 4. I don't know if that's really what Todd's got. Todd doesn't have a problem focusing on one thing, which my 2 children do. I get what he's saying, and it's a joke. I get it. Yeah, he's a 10 sometimes. He's a spaz, but I don't think ADD is what Todd has. Todd just talks. Todd's a talker.
Well, there's guys out there like that, though, that if they're not talking, they're going to lose their brain, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to talk every situation out. And sometimes to be in a boat with a guy like that will drive you absolutely crazy. But
here's the crazy thing about Castledine. A lot of guys, so like when you go fish Toyotas or stuff like that down in Texas, those guys that have known him for years and fished against him, they don't think he ever talks. He does not talk. He doesn't talk in the boat all day long. So like if you draw him, he doesn't say a word, not a word. He doesn't say a word at weigh in. He keeps his circle of friends very small. Now, when you're in that dang house with him, you can't get your foot through the door, and he's already, you know, going at it. But YouTube's been an outlet for him, and he likes to visit, and he's been very open on it, which I think is great for him. It's really helped him mature and grow and become a better man. I really do believe that.
I think a lot of guys are out, you know, when they're out there in the boat, they're pretty quiet. I know with
I didn't know this about him. I was told this. I drew somebody from down there. We were at Amistad. He's like, "Aren't you buddies with Castledine?" This has been years ago. And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "That guy," I said, "He talk your ear off?" And he was like, "Huh? Todd doesn't ever say anything." And I'm like, "Yeah, he does. He talks all the time." He's like, "No, he doesn't." He said, "I drew him, dude. He didn't say a word." And he goes, "We fish all the team stuff against him. He never talks to anybody." And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "No." So I went in that night and I was like, "What the hell, dude?" And he's like, I got to focus on what I'm doing. I don't know.
Big Mike Chronicles. He says, Mr. Hallman, what is your go-to swim jig for the winter?
A Kitech.
A non-skirted Kitech.
I don't throw many swim jigs in the winter. I guess if I'm in Florida throwing a swim jig, you know, I like a little Schmitty swim jig a lot. I actually kind of helped name that. So Brian Schmidt's known for his swim jigs, and I always called him Schmitty instead of Brian. And then he came out with that jig. I'm like, you need to name that thing a little Schmitty because it's a special jig.
It's got a nice little ring to it. That Okeechobee deal, we kind of touched on it a while ago.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I had was, how do you find an area? Like, what's the process for finding an area to start in with all the grass when you're punching? And before we go into that video or that win is responsible for me getting into punching. I tried it a year or two before that. We have a lot of grass lakes around here.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't have a lot of confidence in it. And part of it was I didn't have the right rod. I was fishing with something that was way too stiff. So I went and bought like a 7'11". It's actually like a 10XD type of rod. You know, it's got a nice soft tip, but it's got some backbone. And braid. And after that, you know, I got out there and started doing it a lot more. So that win and watching that on TV gave me confidence to go out there and start punching a little bit more. And then I remember you talking about getting a rod that's got more of a parabolic type pin or a little bit softer pin to it. And to me, that made all the difference in the world because, you know, you set the hook. You don't need a pull cue because you're fishing with braid. And if you don't have some give, they throw slack in your line and you're going to lose the fish because you're putting a gaff through their lip and there's a big hole there. So that softer tip is key. So just talk a little bit about that, about how, you know, the starting point in locating bass in the grass.
So with a lot of these places that we go to, there's generally a lot of it, right? Like a lot. And it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack because a lot of times they're grouped up together. And I kind of like it when they're grouped up together. That's when you can win tournaments, but they're harder to find. And a lot of guys quit. In the Okeechobee tournament, I went there in that one. That was my very first FLW Tour event. And it wasn't like it was my first because like I'd spent 6 years on the Elite Series. So I had some pin-up frustrations. I was like ready to take out on some people. And I knew that thing was going to be in my wheelhouse, but I wanted to do it flipping if at all possible. And I had spent 3 days practicing with that stick in my hand. And to be quite honest with you, it had been very bad practice. I had started up at the north end, started on the west side and fished all the way around, come all the way down the east side. I had 1 7-pound bite, pretty much is all I'd had in practice. And I'll never forget, I was on the phone with Larry Ray, my team partner from Oklahoma at the time, and he was just asking how practice had been and stuff. He'd never even been to Utah or been to Okeechobee, but I was on the phone with him. We were just chatting about life and how bad my practice was sucking. And I'd gone down south and pulled in there, and it was my first time being in South Bay. And I probably had about 4 hours left to practice. And I made a flip on the phone with him, but it didn't even make it into the vegetation. Like it fell like a foot short, and it was a bad cast, and one hit it. And I didn't have a hook on. I just had a hitchhiker, but it felt like a pretty good fish. And I actually laughed at Larry, and I was like, there must be some in here because, they're biting and I'm not even in the cover. And it wasn't 3 flips after that in the cover that one of them ding-donged it. And I was like, Larry, I got to go. There's something here, and I don't have much time left to practice. So I got on the phone with him, and I had, I don't know, 10, 11 bites in the last 3 hours in this one area of South Bay. And there was a couple of them that, when you flipped enough, some of those big ones, it's, that ounce and a half or ounce and a quarter goes slipping through there, and it's falling 100 mile an hour. And it feels like Sammy Sosa hit it with a baseball bat. It's just dong. Those are not 2-pounders. And
right.
I'm not saying that they're all 8s, but they're good fish. They're the ones you're after. And I just remember thinking, man, I wonder how good this could be. And so we had an off day, and during that off day, I was talking to Kurt Dove, which is the only person that I knew at the time. He and I had been on the Elite Series together. and I told him, I said, I had some flipping bites at the end of practice yesterday. He's like, don't get to trusting that. I didn't get many bites in there. But anyway, that's how I found it, was just basically just stubbornness, like the willing to not put it down until I find it. Now, I've been to Okeechobee before and done that and not done well. So you can strike out too. But I think that, like I said, a lot of these places are going to have a lot of it. And you've got to be willing to spend a lot of time with it to find that spot, because a lot of times they are grouped. And if you understand that, it makes it a little bit easier to go for 1.5 miles and not get a bite. It's almost like Kentucky Lake and Ledges used to be before all the graphing kind of came along. You would just fish and fish and fish, and you kind of give yourself confidence by saying, okay, well, I fished the last 1.5 miles and haven't had a bite. So when I run into them, there's got to be 1,000 of them there.
Yeah, right.
And then that's kind of, some of the ways that I go about finding them like that. And that's with any kind of grass, any kind of flipping, you just keep going.
Yeah. So on the Elites next year, is that a bite you're going to, do you go looking for that kind of bite always? Like when you're in a tournament, is that a flipping convention? Is that your top priority to find that bite?
If it's on a place that seasonal pattern wise and historically that it can be a top 10 player, I'm going to chase it pretty hard, because top 10s are hard to make on the tours, guys. I mean, whether it's Elite Series or, hell, even the Opens. Any of these things, they're hard to make top 10s. And I'm not a guy that's going to go probably make a top 10 in New York with a drop shot. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's probably not going to happen. So I want to make hay where stuff lines up for me. So, if I go do it for 2 days, it doesn't work. There's other things down there like little Schmitty. Brian Schmidt always plays when we go to Florida, and it's because of that jig and the vibrating jig too. But I'll be checking both of them and keeping them honest. But there's going to be a lot of flipping stick in my hand from Okeechobee. Even I don't care if I haven't had a bite in practice, I will still flip that sucker in the tournament. It's going to happen because I know what can happen with one flip.
There's not going to be 7 spinning rods sitting on your deck at Okeechobee. I can promise you that.
No. This year I did. We started in Florida, and I started fishing the tournament with spinning rod, but it was a different deal, different situation. I was on the Opens, and I didn't have a good practice at all, and I wasn't willing to go down with a flipping stick, right? I knew those fish were coming, but they weren't there yet, and I hadn't found them, and I'd spent my entire practice trying to find them. So I'm in the Opens trying to qualify, so I grabbed a spinning rod, and I threw a Ned head. And I finished like 60th in the tournament, which doesn't sound good, but it's what you need to make the Elite Series. I don't have that now. I have Okeechobee. I only have 100 guys. I have the right time of year. I'm going to keep swinging, because sometimes you don't even need 5 when you're playing this game right. Like if you get the 4 right bites, they weigh more than most guys 5. So just keep. I'm not saying you can't catch 4 little ones flipping. You can. I have, but it's the way to catch a good bag on Florida, and it still is.
So after 3 years, right, in the Opens?
Mm-hmm.
So 3 years in the Opens, how does that mindset change going into next year? Fishing against 100 guys versus 220 guys, you got to change your game plan a little bit, I'm assuming. Put the big rod in your hand a little bit more.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
going for consistency, but going for a swing. I hate that term, swinging for the fence, but
it's not swinging. It's just a different mentality of how you're fishing. Yeah, I hate the term too, because I mean, when you go out there and you suck, you just suck. And the guys sometimes get on stage and like,
they were saying it in 2013. I was watching those.
The swinging.
They've been saying it forever.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you know, using presentations that you can get bigger bites. But there's a big difference between the Opens and the Elite Series. The Elite Series is premier lakes in the country, premier times in the country with a small field and a short practice period. The Opens have been the worst fisheries in the country, or some of the worst, at the worst times, with a giant field with unlimited practice. So, you know, it's a totally different ballgame. Now, 3 years of being in the Opens, it was hard, man. And, but I feel like that it made me better, because one of the biggest things, and I told my wife this when I left FLW, I may never qualify for the Elite Series because I'm a terrible points angler. Always have been. Dude, I finished in the top 9 this year in the overall. It made me better, because I would have never started in Florida with a spinning rod. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to freaking keep doing what I'm doing. So to answer your question, JB, yes and no. Like, I understand what I've got to do, because chances are we're there and they're biting pretty good, and the spinning rod's not going to get it done anyway. But in the case that, you know, a few of the guys that you're talking to around you aren't getting very many bites, I know that layup is there, and I know that finishing, you know, 60th is not the end of the world. Now, 60th and 100-man field's not as good as it is with, but I've also spent 6 years in the Elite Series, and I know that 60th is way better than 95th. And by being stubborn, that's what 95th is. And so, you know, I'm hoping that these 3 years, I know these 3 years in the Opens may be even better. And I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to be able to use that to hopefully, you know, qualify for some classics starting next year. So,
well, I think, you know, you look at, if you would have qualified year 1 in the Opens in a single division, or even fishing all 9, you may not be as experienced of an angler today as you would have been then, because of two more years of grinding. I mean, you knowing when to put that big rod down and go get a limit. Like you said, 60th place, 50th place, hell, some of these tournaments, even a 30th place by just picking up a spinning rod.
And you're right. The first year of the Opens, I didn't quite get it. And by the second year of the Opens, I don't know if I still quite got it. But going into this year, I mean, for me to start in Florida with a spinning rod in my hand shows me that, you know, you learn something from those first 2 years. The end of the year 2 was at Grand Lake, and I had a really good shot of making it. And I just came up a little bit short, just a little bit. And I knew that I had them at home, because I knew in year 1 we finished the year down in Alabama. And I remember thinking how hard it was, because I had a shot then too. But I remember thinking how hard it was to make a top 10 somewhere that I hadn't been ever in my life. And so when year 2 schedule came out, I was like, all right, just get your ducks in a row, and you got them at home. And I came really close. You know, I think I finished like 13th and missed the top 10 cut by like a half a pound, and I only weighed in 4 fish on the last day. So there was some room there, but I don't know what would have happened. But I've told the story a couple of times. I remember driving away from I'd put in another ramp, and I idled away from the dock after I knew I hadn't made it to cut and wasn't going to have enough points. And dude, I wasn't even thinking about it. I just killed my motor. And I guess I was just sitting there thinking about myself floating in the middle of Grand, and some guy that I don't know to this day who it was, but it was probably somebody in the top 10 as late as it was. But he saw me out there right outside the no-wake buoys, and he took the time to idle out to me and was like, Hallman, you don't know me, but keep your head down and keep doing what you're doing. You're going to make it. It was uplifting, and like, that was the end of my rope. And I came home and I made a bunch of videos last fall about my fire and how driven I was or wasn't. And I was concerned about that. And like, I really had to do some inner searching in my off season last year to be able to come back for year 3 and really dig in. And it worked. I'm fortunate it worked. I was blessed, and you've got to have some luck. And I've known that all along, but Dude, those opens are, if you don't believe me, jump in them.
Yeah, I don't want none of that, man.
They're tried and true.
Yeah, that was some intense stuff. Do you think Panger played a role in you picking up that spinning rod sometimes?
Probably. You definitely, your roommates and the people that you depend on rub off on you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Panger and I were actually talking today about roommates. And
he's question's coming up down the road a little bit here. So
yeah, it's coming up for Panger. He's trying to decide what all he's going to do next year. And Andrew and I've had these conversations as well. And they're trying to decide what's best for them. So this is what I'm getting at. It's important to have those influences in your life, and they need to be positive. There's a reason why Todd Castledine and I have been friends for almost 20 years. There's a reason. It's because I get positives from him and he gets positives from me. And those things matter, and they have to. Now, with all that being said, it's kind of like a marriage, It's not like every day is lovely and great. They have things that irritate you. There's nights with Todd in the house and I'm like, I'm going to my damn room, shut the door, because he's just talking so much. But dude, I'd go to the, gates of hell to fight the devil for him, and he knows that.
Are you traveling? Do you have your travel lineup for next year?
Yeah. John Sukup and I will be in the house together.
Okay. Gotcha.
Just you two?
Yep. Just us two.
Will that be a different change than having 4 or 5 guys in the house?
Yeah, it will be. It will be, but kind of one thing that you're walking into now. I've got a lot of people that I'm friends with on the Elite Series, so it's a little different than when I went there the first time and I didn't know anybody. But they've kind of got their network set up, right? And networking is a really big thing right now in pro bass fishing. The younger guys have the best, what I call the best networks. It's generational. They're better at sharing. The older guys are not as good at sharing. They're secretive, The younger guys are better. I saw this at the FLW tour. Gussie and a lot of those guys that are over on the Elite Series now were very good networkers together on the FLW tour, and I'm sure they still are. My point being is their networks are kind of set up. And so when you're the new guy coming in, even if you're a friend for a long time, it's hard to kind of work into those networks as far as fishing and how much information is being shared, not being shared, what specifics are and are not being given, and how many people are getting a hold of that. John and I have worked together for the last year, staying at the house together. So he doesn't know as many people. And so it's just better for just the two of us to kind of bounce off each other. And our styles are not exactly the same. While John is a really good shallow power fisherman, he also is one of the best scopers in the world. So, he kind of tends to gravitate towards the middle of the lake, and I definitely tend to gravitate towards the bank. So that's good when you're sharing information. You don't want, like me and Tommy Biffle would not be a good matchup.
Let's be honest. Would Tommy be a good matchup with anybody though?
Yeah, dude, Tommy is, but he's got that reputation. He's a great guy. I've roomed with him, stayed with him, traveled with him. He's one of the best storytellers of all time.
Oh, I bet.
You're talking about a guy that can rock YouTube. Like that dude, he's got stories about hunting in Africa and elephants stepping on top of them. And they're hunting at night in a blind, and there's like elephants walking and they can hear them. And like at any moment, the elephant could step on them in their blind. Herd of elephants, like crazy stories. He's a good dude.
Wow. Michael wants to know if you're still using those Chinese reels.
No, I tried. I kept trying. I would use them if I could. Here's the problem. So you get on eBay and order, they always change the names and the brands and the colors and this and that, which I don't care about. Man, they were quality reels. Like I'm not saying they were Shimano's, but like you could buy 15 or 20 of them. One of them might go in the trash out of 10 out of a box, maybe. But dude, they were like $25. And the other 9 you would fish with for a year and a half, 2 years.
Smooth too.
I mean, yeah, you can fish with them, dude. I won $100,000 with one in my hand. Like you can they will get by. Like they're good reels. They're really smooth when they're brand new, and then they kind of get a little rougher and a little rougher. But I mean, they cast well. They cast well. Anyways.
It's $25, right? I mean,
yeah, $25. But if you get on eBay now and you order $25, those same reels are, they look different, but you order them and they're not the same. They've got different, they just cheaped them out. The more they learned that they could sell them, they put cheaper bearings, cheaper this, cheaper that, and they're just junk. and they come out of the box and they're like, I can't even fish this piece of crap. But
yeah,
there was a time when you could.
There's not a lot of room to cheap out a $25 reel.
No, what's the reel company that a couple of those guys are sponsored by? Something King.
Cast King, is that what you're talking about?
Cast King.
Yeah.
See, when I was buying those Chinese reels, was before Cast King existed. Now, I haven't picked up a Cast King or fished with Cast King, but I've got a feeling that that's probably the reel.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I'm betting that's it.
Wasn't Chapman sponsored by them?
Chapman. Yeah, Chapman's one of them. Mm-hmm.
Favorite trailer for the
Cast Kings aren't $25 either. They're more like $75 to $80.
I know they went up. Well, they were cheap at
the first year I went to a classic. I guess it was 3 or 4 years ago. It was the last one everybody was at, the 49th.
Like pre-COVID or what?
That was COVID year.
Oh, okay, COVID year.
Yeah, that was COVID year. They had a deal going because a buddy of mine bought a ton of them there. Mm-hmm. They were cheap, but they weren't $25 cheap. He bought 4 or 5 of them. He came back to the hotel that night, and it was like a 10-to-1 gear ratio, and he was all jacked up about throwing a frog and grass. I said, "You're just gonna get ate up with that."
The $50 price point. Like
yeah,
a lot of those were like $50 when that's the reel I remember seeing when they first came into the market. It was like $50, $49.95 or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
What's the trailer that you're on the LBJ?
Man, I've got a bunch of trailers that I use all the time. I would say that probably the one common denominator is that they're always green pumpkin. I've got 6 or 7 that I use all the time. I used to be a big fan of that Zoom speed crawl back in the day, and that was one I threw all the time, but they don't eat that thing like they used to. And I used to think, well, they're not eating this jig as good, but I think a lot of it was the trailer. So I've changed, and I've used some Strike King stuff, and that's one thing at Big Bite we've got to do. That's what I need to do is design a jig trailer, because we've got a couple, but none of them I'm just super, super crazy about.
Do we even want to go down this road?
What is it?
This is like LiveScope forward-facing sonar question right here.
Snell or straight shank or EWG on the punching grass setup? That's a good question.
It is. Yeah. So that kind of gets into, you were talking about the rod, and you nailed it. Like there's a lot to that rod and all the reasons that you named. The whole punching thing is really a niche, and to really understand it. So yes, straight shank and definitely Snell, and definitely braid, and definitely the rod like you described with a lot of parabolic bend. It's not a 2x4. It needs to be a really long rod. I prefer an 8-footer at least. And then your hook sets and stuff are even different. Like you really watch. I spent a lot of time. This was a hard deal for all of us. When I won Okeechobee, Jason Christie was like, called me. He was like, "You son of a gun." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You figured out that hook set." I mean, it's even hard for him. It's hard for all of us who've grown up with that slack line, pop their head off, flipping, and that big weight. You cannot do that, and you can't do that with that rod. Like you'll just blow their mouth open. It's Mikey Ball's a YouTuber. Dude, I watched him over and over and over. This was back when he was in a little bitty tin boat down there in Florida. And dude, that guy straight jacked giants flipping. It was incredible. Mikey Balls, his old stuff was just, I'm not saying his new stuff's not good, it is, but his old stuff, I give that YouTuber tons of street credit, dude. He knew what he was doing. And I learned from it a lot.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites for sure.
We've had him on what, 2 or 3 times?
He's been on here a couple times, man. He's a ball of energy, man. He's a good dude. Mm-hmm. Last time he was on here, he's dressed up like a.
I saw that. I went back. I knew I was coming on with y'all, so I got on your channel and I was flipping through there and I saw Balls, and I was like, "Hey, he looks like a freaking Ewok."
Well, that was our Halloween show, and apparently Gabe and Mikey had worked out that they were going to dress up.
I flaked, man. I was supposed
forgot to tell me about a dress up party.
Yeah, I was supposed to come up with an outfit, but
I've never met him, never had a conversation with him, nothing.
He's a good dude. He's a really good dude.
Dude's a freaking hammer, I promise.
So it's a pool set, right? You kind of pulling into it.
Yeah, JT Kinney said it once, because I was explaining to somebody one time, and JT kind of looked at me and he's like, "Hallman, what you mean is," and JT was right, you have to initiate the hook set from a tight line. That is the important part. You initiate the hook set from a tight line. If you do that, you're good.
When you're punching, are you trying to keep tension on the line as the weight's falling down? Or, you know, when you make that pitch out there and it punched through, do you kind of free spool it and give it slack and let it fall down on a kind of controlled line? Or what are you trying to do as that weight punches through the mat?
So it depends on the depth, right? So like if we're punching stuff, Texas is 20 foot deep, I want slack line. So like I'll literally hit the mat and then pull up on my rod all the way back past my ears, you know, before I engage the spool, like way back. And then that way, then when I pull it back, you know, then it's falling on slack line all the way down. Mm-hmm. When you're flipping 3 or 4 foot, obviously you can't get that. So I flip. Jim Leachy, he's on here and he's a big fan of y'all. I knew y'all were legit when Jim messaged me and was like, dude, they're freaking great. Glad you're going on with them. Jim's a solid dude. Jim actually pointed some stuff out to me a couple of years ago with some of the guys flipping what they're doing. It's different. Like you really get to watching Cox and them, and they're not engaging their reel at all, ever. Like they're flipping in, and it's going to the bottom, and they're working it without the reel ever being engaged. I don't know exactly what all. I think I kind of know what it is. I think it's that if you flip in there and then you go to pick up, if you've engaged and they've got it, then you're already tight. But if you flip in there and you haven't engaged and you pick up and they've got it, then you've got some room to kind of thumb them out, click the bail, and go. I don't know if that's. I mean, Cox, and what's Cox's partner's name? That's such a hammer.
Keith Carson.
Carson. Watch Carson. Dude, it's a different, and they're both doing it, and there's something to it, no doubt. I mean, they're Florida hammers, and they do that. That's a cool thing to study if you guys really want to get into some nitty gritty on some flipping stuff. I've just got such a habit of clicking that bail. But so if it's a short distance answer your question, no, I'm not. I just let it eat. You know, but if I could, I mean, the big bites, this is something that anybody that's flipped a lot, especially punching, will tell you, like the really big bites, their initial drop, 95% of them. Like it's not ever the up and down or the top of the mat. Like you can get bites doing that. And I'm not saying I haven't caught some big fish doing it. I have. But the majority of the big fish in your life, first drop. Got it.
And that's usually before they're hitting it right when it punches through the mat for the most time, like probably suspended or somewhere up off the bottom.
And that's why some of the big weights are really important too. Like I don't ever get a big bite where I flip up on a mat and you got to shake it and then it goes through. No. It's whenever you flip in there and it's like butter.
Yeah. That reaction, that get that straight.
Yep.
Ounce and a half reaction.
Hear it up there, see it. It's something that's like, and they don't react the same.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that because I typically, when I'm punching, I'll flip it out there when it starts to punch through, I'll give it some slack, and I'm punching 5
There's
foot.
definitely nothing wrong giving it slack. That's what I'm saying, dude. Like if you can do it, all power to you. Do it. Like it's better to fall with no tension whatsoever. No doubt.
Okay, that's good to know. It seems to be working all right because we're punching less than 6 foot. Like most of our grass that's topped out around here is less than 6 foot. So it happens.
You watch a Hackney fish. You'll see Hackney do a lot of pulling that rod back and then throwing, you know, he's pulling that slack and then letting that bait eat on the way down. It definitely is.
That's an interesting comment.
Yeah. Jim's got me all boogered up now. Come punching.
The real click may transmit through the line.
Yeah. That's what he thought it was originally. I remember him telling me that he thought the real click may be transmitting.
I mean, it's bad enough that you got to turn off all your grass. I mean, so that, and then the braid pulling up on the grass,
making noise,
making that sawing noise. I mean, there's all kinds of theories on that.
Yeah,
but I'm kind of like you, Hallman. If it goes through and they're sitting right there, they're eating it before they hear that sawing up and down.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about the biggest bites you get. It may not even be the most bites you get during the day. Maybe most of them are on a hop or whatever. I'm just saying that the big fish, the big bites that you get over a lifetime and through a day, they tend to be on the first fall. Now, you just don't get very many of those, but that is where most of them come from.
So what's your go-to when they already took it and run under the boat and you're handcuffed.
Just freaking tighten up on those.
Just reel down as fast as
That's
you
what that
can.
8-foot rod comes in.
Just tighten up on them and hang on. Yeah, blow them over the side if they're under 6.
Heck, if they're coming, they're coming.
They're
I don't
coming.
care how big they are.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, though. I mean, that hook set from yesteryear, and I learned that from Gabe, and now he's learned his hook set from me. But like, he was a pull hook setter for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I'm a hook setter that you better watch out if I miss.
Are you a slackliner?
Oh my God.
I am too. I love slacklining. You just can't slackline with braid and a big rod.
No.
Dude, when we're flipping at home, that's why Jason and I were like, it's hard for us to do because we flip all these bushes here in Oklahoma. The 25-pound big games, how we came up, dude. It's you throw that sucker out there and it goes dong. I mean, it's throw the rod at them and whack. So we're slacklining them to death. And you've done that your whole life. And it's hard to go from that to, especially as hard as they hit that big weight, you just want to drop it and crack them. But you cannot do that. You got to be careful.
Well, and you're going to end up losing a rod or breaking something if you do that too. When you do miss, I mean, now
a lot of times it just blows through them. You don't feel nothing. It's like you missed the fish. Well, you didn't. You hit him in the freaking top of the mouth with 1.5 ounces and 100 mile an hour, and it just blew everything open.
Now he's got, and you wonder why that fish has got a big old bruise and when you catch him.
Yeah.
Oh man.
What's your Army says it's getting cold here in Kentucky. What is your off-season hobby? What do you do in the off-season?
Dude, my whole off season is usually family, kids. Last 3 years, it's been YouTube content. I like to fish. I like to crappie fish in the wintertime. I really enjoy that because I like eating them. The family enjoys eating them. I like taking my kids crappie fishing because my kids, for whatever reason, none of my bunch is very big into fishing, but I can get them into, catching, which is what some of the crappie stuff ends up being. Because once you kind of go out and you figure out a few places, especially with LiveScope, it's like every cast is a bite. So my kids will go do that with me for a couple hours, and they enjoy that.
Man, I could have caught some crappie today. The bass fishing was tough, but I was all over the crappie.
Oh,
I was all over the crappie. I could sometimes I can catch them on an underspin. I throw like a 3.5-inch Kitech on a little underspin, and a lot of times I can catch them on that. But today they would follow it, they would pair up with it, and then they would just turn away and go back to the school. They were just crappie. They were just in a funk for whatever reason.
So,
but I do know if I had a crappie jig with a little crappie nibbler on there or whatever, I think I could have caught some.
Do you guys have any of the 14, 13, 15-foot long crappie rods, the new ones?
No, I don't. I need to get one back.
I got a 12-footer, yeah.
I don't have one.
You just put braid, put your bait caster on it, like 20-pound braid, and you can just tie a jig with a split shot above it, about a foot above it, and you just drop on those things with LiveScope and just chase them around. And you start doing that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Like, you can catch some great big ones, and you catch a lot of fish. It's really fun in the winter. And it makes you a lot better live scoper too. A lot better.
How far do you scope out?
Bass fishing.
Yeah.
I like that 110, 120 range if we're at places like Hartwell and places like that. I would say that 120, especially up north too. I like that 120, 110. It's a long cast. It's
out there, man.
How long a cast, 110, 120. It's a long ways out there, but I've gotten pretty good. When you start seeing fish at 115 or so, and they're 25, 30 foot deep, and you fire that drop shot out there and it goes down, you're like, hits them right on the nose. You're like, man, I'm getting pretty good at this.
Yeah, that's impressive. It's a long cast. I didn't realize that. So
it
I
is.
got
It's a long ways.
100 foot's a long cast. It's but yeah, you get used to it. It's pretty cool when you can drop it right on their head. You think those smallmouth come after that drop shot more than largemouth? Are they more responsive to it?
I think it just depends on the time of year and where you are. There's definitely Sam Rayburn's a great example. That 30-pound bag that was caught, I'm pretty sure during the open, that boy caught him on a drop shot out of a brush pile. And I know we were there 2 years before for an open, and it was dominated by drop shots. Big fish that are overpressured, seen too many 10-inch worms in their life and too many football jigs, and they will eat that drop shot.
Now, is it a finesse, or are they throwing a little, 4-inch robo, or are they throwing
They're throwing probably a 6-inch robo, 6-inch robo on 10-pound test line. That's pretty damn finesse for Sam Rayburn.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Dude, that spook
That's
fish,
finesse for anybody.
That spook fish in your video that got hung up in that brush pile. Holy cow! I watched that the other night.
Yeah,
Dude, that was that. Hey,
know.
when it's supposed to go your way, it goes your way. Have you seen that? Oh, you got to watch that. It's like you're fighting it, and all of a sudden it just locks up in this brush pile, and it's a big one too. I mean, it's you need that fish.
Yeah,
and it's gone. You're like, it's gone. It's gone.
So the emotion's gone. Like everything's gone. Like it's gone. I agree. It was.
And then all of a sudden, it's not gone.
And then it comes back. And it's like, oh my God, there's a chance.
Yeah, that was nuts, man. If you guys out there have not watched that, go back and check out that video because it's pretty intense there. It was a heartbreaker. Almost. Bass Fanatic. Who's next to make the elites? Panger or Upshaw?
I don't know the answer to that. Both of them 2 years ago, if they'd have been doing the overall, they both finished in the top 10 in the points. So both of them would have made it. I'm kind of hoping they both get through. If they both get through, then we'll be back to a full house. We'll have 4 people in the house on the Elite Series.
That'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Bass Fanatic again. What's Bradley's determining factor on him choosing a Phoenix?
We're talking about boats?
Yeah.
I've been with them since 2012.
That's when they launched, wasn't it? Or 11? 11's when they launched.
Yeah, probably. 2000. I was with Skeeter for 10 years through that first stomp through the Elite Series and stuff. And then 2011, when I left the Elite Series, that was my last year. I learned a lot about myself and sponsors and different things and what I was good at and what I was not good at. What I am not good at is I'm not good at corporate America. And Skeeter is owned by Yamaha, and it's corporate. Mr. Stone runs it. Great company. I'm not saying any of this stuff. They're a great company, make a great boat, great product. Gary Klaus was, at the time, Phoenix was starting, and Gary was and Phoenix Boats was a big sponsor of the PAA, the Professional Anglers Association, which was kind of where the MLF spun off from. That's kind of where the idea started. But at one time, we were all there. And they were a big sponsor and promoter of the PAA. And we had a few tournaments throughout the year, not many, but there was a few. And Phoenix was a big supporter, and Gary Klaus was a big supporter. And that's actually where I met Gary during that time frame. And I'd kind of heard his story of what happened at Stratus, and that he kind of just put his foot down and wanted to buy it and didn't go well. And so they packed their bags and left. And I thought, that's my kind of guy. He's standing up for what he thinks is right and what he believes in and what he's fought for his whole life and built. And I needed a boat around 2012 or so. And so I just called and said, hey, I think I'm going to change boats. And I had quit the Elite Series and I was just fishing at home anyway. And so Skeeter wasn't too interested in me, I don't think, or mattered. And Gary was like, yeah, come on, we need somebody in Oklahoma. So I was one of the very first guys in Oklahoma to have a Phoenix. I'm not saying I was first, but I was definitely one of the first few. And a buddy of mine, Steve Bruton, had opened up a new dealership down in Broken Bow, and he was carrying Phoenixes, and so it was a good fit for me. And then I've been through a bunch of dealers through Oklahoma through the years as Phoenix grew and gotten bigger. But that's why Phoenix, no doubt.
What are you running right now? What model?
920 Elite.
920 Elite. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A buddy of mine he's been doing the online, you're making up your own package Phoenix boat thing. Mike's thinking about going to Phoenix.
Marfo?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. So he's been, I think he's going with a 20-footer. I'm pretty sure he is.
Things may change as we go down the road and boats and owners and all that stuff. But I can honestly say this at my age, at 47, I can be in any boat that I want to be in. It was this way in 2012. Once I'd been in that boat, it just did everything that a lot of boats don't do as well as it. It honestly is the best boat I've ever run. And I mean, if I had didn't know anybody, didn't do anything, it's the boat that I would run. There's no doubt about that.
They're great boats. I've fished several seasons as a co-angler in the BFLs, and I've ridden in a lot of different boats, and it's my top 3. It
was a hard sell to a lot of my buddies, early on, 12, 13, 14, 15 even. you know, a lot of guys just didn't know what that boat was here at home, and they'd be like, Hallman, really? Or you just like, you know, you repping a company. And I'm like, dude, I am telling you. And I mean, I say this all the time. If I was going out to buy a boat, I just had to buy a boat of my own. There's no doubt in my mind that's the boat I'd buy. Like it is. It does so many things so well. And anyway, let's move on.
Dale, what's Dale's question there? You ever thought about jumping in a 10 rig?
Yeah, there's been a lot of times I thought about jumping when Pochet's kicking my teeth in. I'm like, I'm gonna get me a 10 rig. You know, every time I walk by Pochet's boat, I'm jealous. I'm like, I want to get me one of them boats, but I haven't done it. But yeah, man, I fish out of Sukup with his. You know, he's got one, and so I've definitely fished out of some. But I don't like any of them like I like Pochet's. His is like any of the guys want to buy a boat, I would call up. As a Gator Tracks that's got his boat, I would make that phone call.
Mm-hmm. But you'd have to fish in it all year long, even in the big water. It's a kind of a downside.
Are they doing that in the Opens too? I mean, I know the Elite Series is that way, but are they doing that?
Elite Series.
I don't think the Opens are that way.
I don't either. And they never
he just chose to.
You should be able to bring. I mean, they may have changed the rule, but they have. It's just been this year. But you can bring any boat you want. You can change in and out all you want in the Opens.
Okay.
You could even fish day one in one boat and fish day two out of a different boat.
I like that. It's interesting.
You should drag two to each event, make things even more expensive.
There you go.
We'll just put another trailer hitch on the back of that Phoenix, and
you could probably pick that little boat of Pochet's up and just put it inside of it. And just carry it.
Trim her high and let her fly, right?
Get that comment from
Two or three lumps it up, guys. It doesn't weigh much.
Best flipper, past and present tour angler now. Besides yourself, of course.
That's a tough one. Well, I don't ever consider myself that, but and that's a tough one. Because
Denny Brower's pretty good.
I've got a lot of respect for. Well, it says and now, so that takes Denny out, right?
Oh, right. Past and present. Okay.
So at least we get King Kong.
There's so many of them.
Well,
it's
past
hard.
and present. So I'm with you. I'm Denny.
Denny's the best all time. Denny, well, let me say this with respect. It was Denny and Tommy, and Denny got the better end of the deal, but Tommy was very close to having 2 or 3 classic wins himself. Like it just didn't go. He just didn't get that. Tommy was pretty special, Biffle. But yeah, Denny's king.
Those guys just,
man, I don't know about that.
He just throws the jig. Like you ever
It's
seen him flip?
it's
He
just
just kind of like it. Just kind
It's
of
an extension of his arm.
Yeah, he just throws it and it goes. It shoots up underneath there. It's weird motion.
So if I had to say this, and I feel like I've got a pretty good judge on this, I really do. I don't know that it's really even close. I don't think so. I'm saying I can say that with confidence. It's not even close. Who the best is right now?
Well, who is it?
It's Greg Hackney.
Hackney? Okay. Yeah.
And I got all the respect in the world for Randall Tharp, Jason Christie. Hackney's the best flipper of all of us.
Lots of practice. Years and years and years of practice.
Well, he's just so efficient. It's like you watch him go down a stretch, and there's not a missed target. There's not a missed splash. There's nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just perfect and he's hit that tree 17 ways to Sunday before we've made 2 pitches in there. It's like, what in the world?
Dude, it burns me to say that. Like, I hate that he's that much, that he's better than me at it, but he is. I'll tell you all a story. We got in a place, this was 2009 or 10, somewhere in there. We were on Lake Pickwick for an Elite Series event, and the lake was high, and the guy from Arkansas that runs Bass Cats Pro Staff won it. Well, I've gone blank. Anyway, Hackney and I were in a backwater together and flipping, and it was really good. Like I found this place, and it was it was an off the wall place. Like not everybody's gonna find it. And so I run in there day one, and like there's a bunch of fish in this place, and there's some good ones in here. And I get in there, and I'm like, I start going around this reed head, and I can hear somebody flipping on the other side. I'm like, well, shit, somebody found it, I'm thinking, well, it's not gonna matter, I'll take care of whoever's in here. And I get around the bend, it's Hackney, and I'm like, damn. So we share this place for 2 days, And the first 2 days of the tournament, I don't even get a check. I don't even make the day 3, which is 50th place out of 100 guys. And I finish, 60th or something. Not only does he make top 50, he's in the top 10 all week long. He makes it all the way to the final day. Now, he doesn't win out of it, but, he finishes in the top 10. And it made me so mad that he had beaten me so bad in there that I couldn't even get a damn check out of it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what got into me, but the very next tournament, we go to the meeting, and I see him sitting over by himself and, in a chair waiting for Trip Weldon to start talking, and I make a beeline straight to him, and I sit down next to him, and I was like, "Hey, Bubba." He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm here to make you a promise." He said, "What's that?" And I said, "You may beat me, but never again will you stomp a mud hole in me and walk it dry with a flipping stick like you just did in that last derby. It will never happen again." He was like, "Okay." Yeah, I bet he remembers that. I mean, I was so mad at myself, dude, just disgusted.
Well, somebody said Christy.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I watched Christy throw that spinnerbait down the bank, and it seems stupid, but throwing a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait down the bank, that doesn't sound like a challenge. But when you watch somebody that's a pro at it,
there's any technique.
I fished against Jason my whole life, right? We grew up here fishing against each other, and dude, he may be a better overall angler than Hackney. I don't know, but it's really close there. But if we're going to go straight to flipping, I'm going to give the edge to Greg. If he was sitting here, he probably would too. Although Jason doesn't give the edge to nobody, so maybe he wouldn't. I don't know. But now, if we're talking about spinnerbaits, Jason will thump his head.
I see Corey Weaver Outdoors. He says he needs a Phoenix dealer in Iowa, and he also said congratulations on qualifying for the Elites. He won the co-angler side.
Corey did.
Yeah, Corey did. Yeah, so he said he got to see it all go down.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
He also asked this question right there: biggest weakness you want to improve on. He says he asks himself this every off season. That's
a great point, and I do too. What is the biggest weakness? I haven't even asked myself this question. Usually I do, and usually it's been spinning rods. My biggest weakness that I want to improve on this year, and I've got a great opportunity to do it, is smallmouth. I mean, I've traveled all the country, and I feel like I'm versatile. But at the end of the day, when the seasons are over and you look back at the schedules and where I did well and where I did bad, it's not that I haven't had good smallmouth tournaments. I have, but just in general, it's not a strong point for me. And I feel very fluent with LiveScope and smallmouth. I don't know why those aren't coming together. So this year, that is definitely something that I would like to see me improve on.
How do you improve on that in the off season? Is that just more time?
Yeah, I probably spend a lot of time visiting with buddies, listening to podcasts. There's a bunch of guys on podcasts that are, from the north. And I was listening to one the other night, and I can't remember the guy's name, but man, incredible talking about. He was from Canada, talking about all the things he was talking about. It was live chat, and I got in there and I was interacting with him. Just stuff that I take for granted, like I do here in Oklahoma or Texas, that I don't think much about. But if you're just sitting listening to me talk, you could probably pick up if you were from somewhere else. I get the same thing from them. So just that kind of stuff, visiting, reading, studying up on what's going on with, different trends of smallmouth. Like the first time we went to, the FLW tour went, but it was right after the bait with the blades on the front and the back came out. What's the name of it? The spy bait.
Oh,
and
right.
Yeah, I didn't realize how dominant that bait was up there on St. Clair. Now, it's not a dominant bait to catch fish. It's a dominant bait to catch the big fish, right? So it's kind of like flipping. Those big ones eat that thing at that time. And I was just, not in the know. And all you got to do is just listen to some podcasts, some local anglers, BFL stuff. You get a pretty good gist of what's going on. It's a different time and era. You can listen to all this stuff. And I'm like you guys, dude. I'm a huge fan of the sport. I'm a huge fan. That's why I'm making fun of Jason and Christy and Hackney. And I mean, I'm fans of those guys too, even though they're friends of mine. I'm just a huge fan. So I listen and try to, this is what I'm talking about. The fire's got to continue to burn. This is why at my age, I've got to burn like this to compete, because this is what all the young guys are doing.
Yep, it's out there, man. You got to soak it up for sure.
Right.
Best overall caster for getting the
Kevin Short. Somebody put on there. That's correct. Kevin Short's the one that won that Elite Series event on Pickwick.
Oh, okay. Man, I think Swindle could skip a jig up in some tight places.
Best overall caster as far as getting baits into places. Brian Thrift and not even Thrift.
I can hear it. Was it Todd? Somebody was saying that
Andy
is unbelievable.
Andy Montgomery.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, he's got his own skipping rod.
I bet Brian News not too far behind him. I bet Brian News, right? All those guys over there from that Lake Norman area can skip. And then the guys here in the Ozarks, especially on Grand and stuff,
yeah,
like the Ozarks, we can all skip too really, really well.
Yeah, I've been in the back of the boat with some dudes that can skip, and it's freaking impressive.
I can skip backhanded, front-handed. I can do it too. I just spent a lot of time doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something we don't have around here, really. We have one lake that has docks, but you can't fish within 10 feet of it. So it's a super tease. It's like it's a lake rule.
That's where I was at today.
It's a lake rule. You got it's a private training ground for.
It's a private lake. Okay.
It's private. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
It's house rules.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm down with that. Hey, if they want to buy the land, build the dam, build the houses on it, and then make the rules, they can make all the rules they want. I'm all for that. It's all the people that on these public lakes that ain't figured that out that want to enforce it like it's their private. And I'm like, dude, this sucker is a tidal river, been here since before this country was founded, and you're trying to claim it.
Right. No, this is a 100% private lake. It's a power plant lake, or used to be a power plant lake. It doesn't generate much anymore, but it was our lake in January where everybody else got 6 inches of ice on it, and you go over there and catch fish in 70-degree water.
Right.
So.
But they kind of shut it down because natural gas got to be cheaper than coal. So the last 3 years, they've been running, I think, like 25% capacity. So you got a little small area that stays thawed out. But, the down lake, it gets froze up.
Right.
I mean, in a cold winter, to get froze up. But it's full of fish. And it also gives those fish a place to rest. They can get underneath those docks, and nobody can mess with them.
I still don't think that's a good reason for them not to allow us to fish the docks.
I know. I think they should have like how they have free fishing day,
like free dock day.
Yeah, they have free dock skipping day,
like once a week.
Yeah, or either pay like an extra $5 when you launch your boat and you can skip the docks. I mean, I'd do it. Yeah, 100%, I'd do it. You got another question up there?
Yeah, that sounded really good.
I opened another soda pop.
Yeah, I bet that was a soda pop.
Congrats on. Okay, so here's a question from Jerry. Congrats on making the elite. What is the criteria to stay in?
You better catch them, or you're not going to be in. I don't know what the numbers are, but you could pretty much look at it. They're wanting to stay at a 100-man field, and they're bringing in 9 new ones. So you're going to better stay somewhere in the 80s or 70s. I'm not really giving that a lot of thought. I'm planning on catching some fish, so hopefully I don't have to worry about that.
Well, there's 3 years in the past of Bradley's mind that says I don't want to go back and go through that again. So
yeah, for sure.
That's got to light some sort of fire under you.
Yeah, I think that's got fire lit in everybody at the Elite Series. That's why they're all worried about how many guys are going to get cut out. And I think that's why we went from 12 spots in the Opens to 9 spots next year, is because dude, there's a bunch of guys on that Elite Series that they've seen what I've gone through. They know me. They don't want no part of it. Nobody does.
Right.
Like, that's not a good option.
Well, the guys that want to get in don't even want to go through it. I mean,
that's right.
What do you know about a 1-ounce chatterbait?
Offshore ledge stuff. Somebody dropped a video or an article about it. Maybe Buddy Gross was talking about it on BassMaster. I think I saw that highlighted, that he just left that up. That's a TVA deal. Started a long time ago, long before they even made 1-ounce chatterbaits. Those guys have figured out a way to catch those pressured ledge fish with big chatterbait. And I personally have not done it, but I definitely see it and can understand why it would work.
Somebody up there was talking about did they change the slot limit or something on Grand Lake recently?
Yeah, that question's popped up.
Can't remember who had that.
Yeah, they may have changed something. I'm not in on all the ins and outs of what's going on at Grand anymore, guys.
Ask Hallman who's responsible and why Grand Lake is adding slot limit? Is it due to the overall fishing pressure or adding a new strain of bass?
I don't know. I was up there and I heard some of my buddies talking about it. There's a little joint down there. We go have breakfast. There's all the locals are in there in the mornings. They've got a good biscuit and gravy. And I was visiting with them, and it did come up, but I didn't listen close enough because I don't think it's going to have an effect on the tournaments, because the tournaments are going to be able to get their whatever. So they're still weighing 5 fish, and I believe that's correct. So it won't be. I think it's a state deal. It's about meat eaters. Dude, I just don't think there's that many meat eaters left in the country.
There needs to be more meat eaters around here, at least.
Yeah.
We had Sean Hurst, who's a biologist over in Illinois, on, and he was one of our local lakes that we fish. He said I would be ecstatic if everybody kept their limit of 12-inch bass every time they went to the lake, just because it's overrun.
We got a 14-18 slide on one of these local lakes, and you got to start. Those. I think some of the crappie guys will take some of those 13.5-inch bass.
Yeah, but a lot of those crappie guys will take that 4.5, 5 pounder too.
They
will. They catch on minnows.
Yeah, that needs to go back in the lake.
But is there a new lake in Oklahoma?
I don't know about it either, if there is.
Boys to Art?
I don't know about it. I haven't even heard that. How's the new lake, Boys? Is that either by y'all?
No, never heard of it.
Maybe somebody can tell me.
Pronouncing it wrong too.
If there's a new lake in Oklahoma, I don't know about it. I'm ashamed. There may be, but I don't know about it.
Well, heck, there's not a lot of new lakes that pop up anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
since the 70s.
Yeah, we're pretty well out of that era.
Well, we've had more. So the further you go west, the more newer ones they do build, right? Like, I mean, look at Lake Fork. It was built in the 80s.
Yeah, but not in our generations, at least.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying you guys are a little bit further east, and the further east you go, the less new lakes there are. The further west you go, the newer they tend to be. Land was cheaper.
Texas.
Yeah. See, I haven't been to it.
What was that one about top 5 baits? There's a question up there.
It's a 2-year average for Jim. Was asking that. That's a good question. He's wanting to know how many years is the average. They've got a really weird system. The guys that have been there for 5 or 6 years, they get 5 years, and the guys that have been there 2 years are using a 2-year average, and you've got to go against their 5. And I think they're dropping some of their bad ones, and so the guys that have been there longer have a better advantage in that overall. Who's leaving and getting kicked out? And who's
Isn't there something about, like, if one guy's got a medical, like the COVID rule, if you got like one COVID, then everybody gets to drop one or something like that?
I don't know. They've got all. I don't understand.
Hard to keep up, isn't it?
And you better catch them. That's what I know.
Yeah, exactly. Just catch them.
There's an easy way to stay in, right?
Yeah, catch them.
Top 5 confidence bait. Bet the LBJ's on there.
Top 5 confident baits. Yeah, LBJ is definitely on my box all the time. Anything for flipping sticks in my hand. An LBJ does not count as a flipping stick. I like a topwater of some kind, either a spook or a buzz bait, a square bill, and a spinner bait and a chatterbait or swim jig. So something along those lines are my wheelhouse.
That's power fishing 101 right there.
Okay, yeah. I got a question. When do you choose between a jig and a Texas rig soft plastic? Is there I don't know how to phrase that question. When do you make
a jig?
Yeah, just a jig versus soft plastic, like a creature bait, when you're flipping.
If I can flip a jig and they'll eat it as good as a plastic, I'll flip a jig because I feel like it gets bigger bites. The problem with the jig is a lot of times it just doesn't generate enough bites. And that's when I tend to catch myself flipping plastics more often. Plastics tend to be less maintenance throughout the day. They come in and out of cover easier. Jigs tend to get hung up a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I would say earlier in the year when the water's a little bit colder, I lean towards jigs. And as it starts to warm up a little bit, I start moving more towards the plastics. And then once we kind of get to the heat of the summer, I really like jigs. I'm a big jig fisherman. I love jigs. I always have. I think that a lot of guys at high pressure places, everybody gets to flip it and everybody thinks the high pressure. Well, hell, hardly anybody's flipping the jig. I'll flip a jig then too, because I know everybody's flipping a beaver or BFE or, some type of plastic. But plastics are just easier in and out, less maintenance, more flips throughout the day. A jig can get pretty aggravating at times if it gets to depend on what you're flipping wood wise, can get, snagged and hung up a lot.
When you're flipping shallow wood like that, are you going heavier or lighter?
Jigs?
Yep.
Depends on water temperature.
Okay.
If the water temperature is real cold, I'm going lighter. As it warms up, I go heavier.
How heavy is too heavy?
No such thing. I've got some 1 ounce jigs I like a lot. 1.25 ounces, 1.5 ounces.
That you'll flip in nothing?
I flip in grass generally.
Okay.
I want up to 1.5 ounces. I'll flip a 1 ounce. So a lot of it depends on depth. So like if it's wood, any of our lakes when they get really high, some of our lakes here in the Midwest, but your guys, Beaver Lake and stuff like that does it too. Any of the lakes that get really high, like Lake of the Ozarks could, if it gets 10, 15 foot high, man, a lot of times they're in those bushes that are 10 foot deep out on the front. It's 10 foot high and like they're in those front trees or bushes, but they're 10 foot deep. I'm not flipping a freaking 1/4 ounce or 1/2 ounce in there and letting it go all the way to the bottom. I'm freaking flipping big weight all the way to the bottom. So that's what those big jigs are for too, besides just grass. A lot of guys just think that big weight's just grass, and it's not. A lot of times it's wood and rock holes. It's just they're really high.
Yeah, bull shoals, table rock, notorious.
Yeah, notorious. And you got that clear water, and that big weight goes flying through there, and it's pretty special.
Yeah, we've talked to a couple people on the stream that flip. Well, Chad Morgan Taylor, he's a big fan of flipping like a 3/4 to 1 ounce jig up shallow, in 2 or 3 foot of water, just get that really fast fall rate. And
sometimes that big jig's good even on docks, shallow docks in the fall where everybody's flipping this or that or a little shaky head worm. That big jig just makes a lot of clunk and clank, and it's fast, like Morgan Taylor's talking about. Morgan Taylor's a very good flipper too, by the way, guys. A lot of guys don't realize because he's not originally from the Table Rock area, is he? He's from like Indiana or Illinois.
Carbondale,
Illinois.
Right across the river from us.
His powerhouse, his wheelhouse is Florida. That's really his wheelhouse. He's a really good aquatic vegetation Florida flipper. He's really good. I know because I've made top 10s with him. He's good.
Yeah, I know that's the reason that he moved to Table Rock, because he was trying to get confidence in fishing offshore and deeper, clearer water. Because in Southern Illinois, you have a lot of shallow water opportunities. You got a lot of off-colored water, shallow wood flipping, that kind of stuff. So he's definitely got years and years of practice of doing that. So he moved down to Table Rock to get his offshore game in check, and he's done it for sure.
Chris wants to know. Chris obviously says congratulations and go give him hell. What's your go-to jerkbait rod?
That Mike McClellan Cara. I've used it forever. It's a Falcon 610 jerkbait rod. It's Mike McClellan designed it. McClellan's won many tournaments as about anybody for jerkbait back in the day. Like before LiveScope, that dude was he'd catch them, Table Rock and all through the Ozarks. But I throw his. He designed that rod for Falcon many years ago. It's a freaking good rod.
I lost one of his jerkbaits today in a brush pile. I was highly upset.
That Spro is a good one. A lot of guys overlook that Spro. Because it's a good jerkbait, dude. It catches them.
You got a favorite color, like favorite 3 colors in the Spro jerkbait?
No,
or just jerkbait in general.
I love that jerkbait. I do. I like it. I use it, and I use the one everybody uses, the Mega Bass. The Spro doesn't throw quite as well, but man, it catches them. And especially as the water starts getting cooler, it's got a little bit deader action. That Mega Bass is too, it hits too hard when you tweak it. And I think when the water gets colder, it's not very natural looking, because I don't think there's a whole lot of minnows down there twitching that hard. Whereas that Spro's got a more smooth, twitch to it.
Yeah, I agree. I like it. I've caught a lot of fish on it in the last multiple years. I like the Blue Bandit. Blue Bandit's probably one of my favorite colors. And Ghost Magic Purple is another really good color. Gosh, there's a lot of different colors. I got two, man. I had to, so I went to get my jerkbait box. Well, I say jerkbait box. I got a bunch of jerkbait boxes, and this is kind of where I'm going at with this. But the water's cooling off, and so when I left this morning, I'm like, I'm gonna throw some jerkbaits in my boat. I grabbed one box, and then I grabbed another box, and then I grabbed another box. I got 3 Well, I got more than that, but I got 3 go-to jerkbait boxes, and I've
Mhm.
decided it's gotten out of hand. There's
Yeah.
probably 120, 130 jerkbaits in those 3 boxes combined. I mean, I got the smaller jerkbait box, like the Lucky Crab.
I totally get it. I think I've got 5 of them now.
I know, man.
I went from 1 to like 3 because 1 was so bad. I was like, and then I went to 3, and I was carrying 3 for a long time, and now I'm up to 5.
Yep.
And with scoping going on, now we're using them year round. It's not just a seasonal deal. And
yeah, it's crazy. I got 1 left, so I cleared out another spot in the box for a new jerkbait today.
Well, you know what happens when you lose 1, right?
You get 2.
You go buy 3 or 4 more.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a guy on there that's asked about that lateral perch like 5 times. I never used it. I was in tournaments when Keith Combs was winning events with it. I actually made a top 10 with him. That one he won, he was PAA down in Texas. We were all flipping docks, and he was kicking our butt. He beat me pretty bad with that. He got all those.
What is that?
I've never heard of that one.
Lateral perch back?
Mm-hmm. It was a big jig that looked like a perch. It was almost like a swim bait type jig. If that makes sense.
What's your favorite Arkansas fishery?
That's a good question. Dardanelle. I love Dardanelle. I love the river.
You've been on Dardanelle a couple times, haven't you?
I love Dardanelle.
Dardanelle broke our heart in college.
Is that dirty water?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Dardanelle reminds me a lot of Kentucky Lake and dirty water.
Yeah.
Just flipping big 8 to 15 pound drum up. That's what I remember about Dardanelle. So.
Dardanelle's got a minute, man. I like Dardanelle a lot.
Well, when you're flipping just that 6-inch visibility, and you know what I'm talking about. One of those big old drum hits it, and it feels like a bass, and it rolls out there about 15 or 20 feet, and all you see is a white flash, and you got tournament 1 right now. I mean, it's in the bag. You got the net, and he comes up, and it's just a big old drum.
Yeah.
So the deal that made Hackney famous when he was young was at Dardanelle, and he was throwing a jig on Rip Rap, and he set the hook on one, and I know exactly. But anyway, he hits this fish, and he's like bigging. This is when do y'all remember the one who was screaming, "Godzilla ain't got nothing on me right now"?
Yeah.
This was it. And I mean, it's over 6, which is a massive fish for the river. But when you first set the hook on a jig, especially on that rock, and it's that big, it's probably a drum, But drum will like instantly, like when you hook them, they'll do like that circle, or they'll do something funny where you're like, it ain't a bass. Anyway, he hits this fish, and you can tell he's like, this is a damn drum. And the camera's on him, but it's pulling, and he's like bigging, and she just keeps pulling straight. And he starts talking, he's talking out loud. He's like, please be a bass. And it like shows itself. And he's like, oh yeah, it's a big old bass. And then he goes crazy and does the whole Godzilla ain't got nothing on me. But I knew when that came out back in the day, like I felt it's just that drum deal you're talking about, dude. I knew what he was thinking about.
Yeah,
I'm a fan, dude.
They get thin. Those drum get thin. They're big at first, and then they start getting thin on you.
Well,
the worst thing's a flathead. When you set the hook on a flathead in a tournament, like just a 6 or 8 pound.
Just
flathead.
the initial set.
Oh, it just
and it doesn't move.
You're like that's because they do the little head shake.
Well, I was working on those fish over at Kincaid this past winter on LiveScope, and I fished probably for 35 minutes for this. What I thought was a giant fish, and it was a giant fish. It was just like an 8 pound drum.
Yeah.
And he came up and just smoked a jerkbait.
Yeah.
And it was awesome until I realized it was a drum.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Right.
The way their mouth's set up.
Right.
It makes
I
sense.
hate those. We got a ton of them in Grand Lake. We catch them, like, especially in early spring. They're just a nuisance. They get you excited, and then they're not what you're after.
See, we got the big stripers around here.
Yeah.
So I say big. They're not giant. They're that 10 to 20 pound range.
There's some 20 pounders in there.
Yeah.
20, 25 pounders in there. That's big to me.
Those are good ones.
Yeah. 10 killer. Clay says, how would you fish 10 killer in December?
Shallow. Fish shallow. Yeah. Big baits, big swim baits, a lot like what they're using in the Ozarks or square bills. Still catch them on top water. Sometimes the water's high flipping, but little bandit 200, stuff like that. A lot of jig fishing on 10 killer.
Tennessee Bassmaster, is the Falcon Jason Christie pitching rod powerful enough for frogging and reel flipping? Reel flipping? What?
I'll be honest with him. I don't know exactly what he pitches with. I think we've got different rods. I would say no, it's not enough for a frog.
By the way, Falcon Cara, I love me some Falcon Caras.
Yeah, they're a nice product.
Traveling from this guy right here. I brought several used ones from Ron.
Yeah,
and, man, they're sensitive. I love them.
Yeah, they're good rods.
Do you throw a tube anymore?
Absolutely, black neon. Yeah.
Well, the BFE is kind of a tube hybrid. It's not hollow.
It is. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where it came from. I was trying to mix it and a beaver and a brush hog, just kind of trying to mix everything together. But yeah, I've always been a big fan of the tube. I still am. There's time and place for it. Big Bite's got a really good one too.
The crawl tube?
Shut up.
No, the crawl tube's a good one too. A lot of guys like it. He's like, cut it off. Crawl tube is a good bait.
You never caught a fish on a crawl tube, have you? Never.
In the spring in 2 foot of water on a crawl tube.
No.
Yeah, soft jerkbait. I had one on today. I didn't throw it. They weren't on a jerkbait today.
That's one of my weaknesses right there. That fluke.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one. I always forget about it.
God, I have a hard time hooking fish with it.
I can't ever get the setup right on it, whether it's the rod, the line.
I can't either, and I try and try and try. Now we're out east with LiveScope trying to use it, and all those blueback herring lakes, you've got to be able to throw it. And God, I just can't get it. I can't find a setup that I like. I will promise you this: we've got Lake Murray on the schedule. I will spend a month out in my pond before I get the setup right. But I don't even know if it's the spinning rod is what a lot of guys have gone to out there. They're like, you got to throw it on a spinning rod just because of the length of the casting that's required in that style of fishing. But God, man, I can't hardly get a hook in them in a bait caster spinning rod. I'm really going to suck.
Yeah.
I've got to get that figured out before Murray. I fished with a guy that used a flipping hook in a fluke, like a straight shank flipping hook. Mm-hmm. And his hookup ratio was decent, but it'd have to be like a finesse.
I was going to say, thick hook. If you had what is that? The Panger was telling me about that. His drop shot hook that he uses is that
G finesse.
That right? G finesse, yeah. So it's a straight shank flipping hook.
Yeah, in open water that'd probably be good, but that light wire stuff, if you're coming through grass and stuff, it's going to poke through.
What line size was he using?
I don't even know.
So
I don't even know. He was throwing a spinning rod. But can you throw the donkey rig in the Elites, like the two fluke rig?
No. I believe they've taken that out.
Okay.
Surprised me that it was out because I like it's out in the opens because we couldn't use it at a Hartwell, and that shocked me because I was at the Elite Series when all that A rig came out, and you could still throw that double fluke rig. It was kind of grandfathered in, but they've taken that out. You can't throw it.
That's dirty looking too, anyway.
It is, but I don't know that it's that much better.
I've thrown it a ton. I learned about it when
it looks great.
When we were at Cherokee and at East Tennessee for a BFL regional, and the boater that I drew was throwing that, and I was blown away. I'd never seen anything like that before. Mm-hmm. And took that back home, and I'm thinking, man, I'm going to just destroy them on some of these lakes for our short fish around here that we have to have. And shoot, I didn't catch a thing on it. And every time I did catch one, I broke it off. So.
I remember years ago when that thing came out, like we would be over at Lake Murray. Casey Ashley just started fishing. He's from over there, and he'd be kicking our butts, and he's just throwing a single fluke. So like some of the best hammers over there on the best fluke lakes in the country, some of them would use it and some of them wouldn't. I just don't know that there's a difference.
It's mesmerizing to watch it.
It is. But I don't know that it gets any more bites.
Yeah.
I can see even like when they're schooled up, which a lot of times they are on those herring fish, maybe you get 2 out of a school, but like why was Ashley throwing a single and Gagliardi throwing the single? And I'm not saying they don't throw the double. That'd have to be a question for them. I don't really know.
I tell you what, for me, it was if they hit the slider, I would always break that fish off.
Really?
It just didn't have enough. I don't know if it was the give or what in the line, but it seemed like I'd set the hook on that one and just pow every time.
The owner cover shot worked fine. there's a bunch of hooks out there that work. I threw a fluke the other day.
It's more than just the hook. It's almost like that. It's almost like that flipping stuff we were talking about for mat fishing. There's a whole setup for this, and there's a couple different ways to skin this cat, but there's more than just the hook and hookup. The hook needs to be weighted somewhat too, because you're trying to work that fluke on those blueback lakes faster than normal because it's about speed, but yet they don't want it to come to the surface, because if it breaks the surface, then they don't get bit as well. The weighted hook also helps with casting distance. I'm telling y'all, casting distance is a big deal over there. So you need a weighted hook, whether it's homemade and you wrap wire around it. Like, I don't know what I've played with a bunch of different stuff, and I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and some of these guys I'm talking about, I've watched them, but they've all got a different system. There's even a fluke rig that I played with at Hartwell this year where you're using a drop shot hook basically, and you run a hitchhiker. Have you all seen this, where you run the hitchhiker just in the nose of the fluke, and you just nose hook it?
Is that the banjo minnow?
The action of it is incredible. It's a fluke, with a hitchhiker screwed in all the way to where you just got that little hole, and then you just run your nose hook right through that hole. So that's what holds it into the bait.
Yeah.
And it just pendulum and swings on the end of that drop shot hook. And it's a great looking bait. Like, they bite it really well. And a lot of guys, there's some hammers using that, and that's the only hook they have. And they're like, dude, they're eating it from the front anyway. I don't know.
That's the banjo minnow, isn't it?
Was the banjo minnow like that?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's probably where that came from. It's real similar.
Yeah, because it had a nose hook.
I saw
on
Tactical Bassin had a video.
Tactical Bassin actually has a video, I think, about rigging a fluke the way I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. In open water, that'd be great. It's not going to come through grass, but open water scenario. Blueback herring's open water deal most of the time. Yeah, he said Tactical Bassin. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, it is a Tactical Bassin trick. I think that's where I got it too.
Scroll through some of these questions, see if we missed any.
What stop are you looking forward to the most?
Man, I'm really looking forward to all of them. I'm really excited about the first one in Okeechobee, but I'm really excited about Seminole. The river down in Texas is Sabine. I'm not as excited about, but I've never been there, and I tend to do well on grind tournaments. So I imagine, I was talking to Luke Palmer the other day, and he's like, "Oh, you're going to like that place." He's like, "It fits us perfect." He's from Oklahoma too. And, I don't know. I'm even looking forward to the northern swing, because it's the three. If I could pick 3 smallmouth places to go to, that'd be the ones that are on the schedule. And Champlain doesn't necessarily have to be a smallmouth deal. I've always chased greenfish there, but it seems like here as of late, probably because of scoping, it's a smallmouth tournament for sure.
Now, is the Sabine, is that where they had all the state line issues?
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to go over to Louisiana now or not?
I don't know. I hadn't looked at the rules yet, but I think the last couple of events they've had there, they just said no going to Louisiana.
Hellabass says this guy sounds like an Okie.
Hellabass knows. I've been on with him too. Hey, call me up, Hellabass. We'll do it again. It's that time of year. He's got a great podcast as well.
Oh yeah. We're all good buddies. I got to go up to Minnesota and fish with Rich. It's been 2 years now. Time flies.
Well, Ron and I were talking about that today. So our buddy Ron used to guide up at Mille Lacs, and we were talking about that. And I told him today, when I jumped in the boat with him, I was like, "You ever get back up there?" I said, "You just call me. I'm in."
You got to get in on that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's ridiculous.
Well, we were talking about, I asked him if he had ever had a 30-pound bag, and he's like, "Man, it was close." I said, "What about 25s?" And he's like, "Oh man, that was like once a week we catch 25."
See, this guy right here is talking about this back to this fluke, and he's right, spinning rod. And so then you got to decide. So a lot of guys use that big oversized swivel, and I like it too, because it helps with casting distance, and the swivel helps keep the fluke down. Exactly what I'm talking about. And dude, they use that big oversized swivel. They've been doing that for years. The boys at Clark's Hill were doing that 15 years ago. But 10-pound test braid, it's so that they can throw that thing a mile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're working that. A lot of those guys are working it
They work it a lot of different ways. Yeah, it's not always down like what we've grown up jerking. Yes, you're correct on that.
Yeah.
They even do that with their spooks. They'll even work them up.
Yeah, I watched Gagliardi and Brandon Cobb. They're
Cobb's another good one to watch his stuff. Yep.
Best Castledine story.
Best Castledine story. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I'll come up with one before we get off the show.
Yeah, we were talking about a good one, good story before we went live.
Oh, the haunted house story.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. What?
Your haunted house story that you were talking about on Castleine's channel the other night.
Yeah, it is a good story. We were all in a house, and
I like the one where I can't remember who did it, but they went in and they pulled the drawers out on all the dressers.
That was just Scott, wasn't it?
Is that who did it?
He did it to.
He just pulled the drawers out just a little.
I think
bit.
Scott did the chairs. I think Todd may have done some drawers. I may have done some drawers too.
It's hilarious.
None of us were telling each other. So we all had this house rented. This was 3 years ago in the opens, and it was me and Todd and Andrew and Scott Martin and maybe some more. And then all of Scott's. Oh, Billy got a bass is with us fishing his car. Scott. Billy got scared to death, and but we'd rented this big house. Scott got all the houses that year, and so Billy was actually sleeping in the living room, and some of us had bedrooms. Andrew was sharing a room with, I think, Scott's camera guy. Anyway, I'm trying to make this story shorter than what we did the other night because there's a lot to it. But somewhere early in practice, and this house kind of looks like it. It's like off the main street, but it's kind of got this Mexican, Spanish style to it. But it was a listing of this house, and you could tell that it was like a picture of the front of the house, but it was a news article across it about a murder that had happened inside that house, a mass murder. And Andrew was like, holy cow, somebody sent me this, and we're staying at this house. This is our house, I think. Is this our house? And sure enough, it's our house. And I mean, it looked real too. Like he did a really good job with it. And I was like, man, so I wasn't really sure. Like I tried to look up the address and news stories, and I couldn't find anything. That's how real it looked. It had me looking for stuff. But then we just didn't really talk about it a lot in the house. And then everybody that night got talking about that article and was it real and where did you really get it? And I don't know if y'all know McCoy, that's Scott's camera guy, but McCoy was probably about 18 to 19 years old that first year. It was first year he'd worked for Scott, because his other guy had moved on, and McCoy's young and he's spooky. And so it was kind of fun kind of seeing those guys kind of spooked. So I think everybody just kind of took it upon themselves to do a little bit here and there. And I had moved some guys' bags, like they had their bags like out in the hallway. And I took bags and I moved them to other people's rooms and would just like set them up on the dresser right in the center of their bed, or maybe like one right in the middle of the shower. That was perfect. Todd was moving dresser drawers. And so it got so bad that McCoy set up cameras because, he's an 18-year-old little camera geek. And he sets up all these cameras all over the house. So he's going to catch this ghost. And the camera got shut off. Like nobody was on it. Nobody was nothing. And it just quit working. And I'm like, dude, you're not very good at your job if you can't freaking record this. And it's not a ghost. And yeah, it's a ghost. Like there's no way that camera just quit working. It only been running for 12 minutes. It went off. There's not even a shadow, So he's trying to get everything on film. I guarantee you, he's got 5 cameras in the damn house mounted around all over trying to catch this ghost. Apparently, Scott on his way out one day took all the chairs at the dining room table and flipped them all upside down, which I didn't know. I just got a phone call while I was on the lake from Andrew going, hey, man, you were like one of the last ones out, but I know you left before me. Were the dining room chairs like sitting normal? And I was like, yeah, they're normal. He goes, dude, they're all upside down right now. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. McCoy's at the house by himself. So like we all go fishing for practice. McCoy gets so nervous and scared. He leaves, takes his computer and everything and goes to like Starbucks. So he's got an internet so he can work for Scott and do all this video stuff he's supposed to be doing. And he can't even stay at the house. He's so scared. During the day, Billy got a bass, has a blow up mattress in the middle of the living room. He ends up moving because he hears the dryer come on in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night, he swears. He's like, it's like a quarter. He hears a quarter tinking in the dryer. And he moved his bed to the bedroom with McCoy and Andrew, who are in bunk beds in there. And he's got his little blow up mattress. Now they're in the smallest damn bedroom of this giant house. And now they're all three grown men scared to death of this thing.
Safety in numbers.
Safety in numbers. And I mean, dude, he's believing it. Like, he is scared. Now they're all scared, especially everyone in that room. Like that room, Andrew, McCoy, and Billy, they're the three most scared. There's no doubt. And they're about to kill each other. Now, I'm not having conversations with Scott or Todd. I don't know who did the chairs. I don't know who pulled the drawers out. Like, I have no idea. I just know what little bit of things I've been doing. And I don't know, like, this thing rocks on until Andrew just gets really mad one night, and he blows up, and he's yelling at everybody about these ghosts, and he's leaving. And so Scott gets to feeling guilty and comes clean, which was the worst thing he could have done. But Scott, guys don't know. They watch him and they're like, oh, well, he's just this. Dude, I'm telling y'all, man, for a superstar, I've got 3 or 4 buddies that are those superstars. Scott is, honest to God, the most genuine friend. The first phone call I got in the opens, the very first phone call when I came off stage to congratulate me was Scott Martin. And my phone rang a lot after that. Scott Martin was the very first one. And it was while he was fishing that USA bass deal that they kind of put together. So like, he's got a lot of irons in the fire, and the dude's still paying attention enough to, anyway, it's kind of my point about Scott, because he gets kind of a bad rap sometimes because he's so famous, but he comes clean. I would have never came clean. I didn't come clean when they were all admitting. And Andrew just gets madder and madder and madder. And Scott comes clean, and then Todd comes clean. And I'm just sitting there going, I don't know what y'all are talking about. And I've done plenty myself. And Andrew storms off, and he's gone for about an hour and a half. And Scott feels really bad, trying to get Andrew to come back. And so Andrew finally comes back. And anyway, it was at this point, everybody's coming clean, and there's McCoy with his 7 cameras on in the house. Todd tells him about how he snuck back in the back door and came up behind the camera and turned it off. It just freaked McCoy out. And Billy still didn't move out of that bedroom. He stayed in there with him the rest of the week.
well, ghosts are notorious for like sucking the energy out of any kind of device. Yeah. So when that camera shut off at 12 minutes, that just added fuel to the fire for sure.
Dude, the atmosphere, it was so tight and tense. And that night was the night. If Scott hadn't come clean, that was the night. I had this giant pot that was in the kitchen. And I told you guys the story, but we were all staying this hallway's tile, and it goes to every bedroom. Well, I was at the very end of the hallway. I was going to take that pot to bed that night. And about 2 a.m, I was going to set my alarm, and I was going to get up, and I was going to bowl that empty pot down that freaking loud hallway. And all those guys bought all their rooms, they would have came out, and their hair would have been on fire. It would have been so great.
The Looney Tunes cartoons where they run through the wall, like Bugs Bunny will run through the wall, and then there's just this print. That's what you would have saw. There would have been a hole in the side of the house.
Yeah. And I mean, dude, it didn't even affect me. Like, I was in bed one night, and it was about 1 a.m. I woke up, and like I said, I was at the end of the hallway, so I had an outside door that went to the outside. And this house had it had that Spanish Hotel California, like it had some feel to it. Like it fit the mold. And I woke up at like 1, and I was like, I know I heard somebody trying to come in that sliding glass door. I know I did. And I laid there, and I was like, dude, don't start going down this path with them. Like, you got to get your mind off this. And I instantly changed my mind to something about fishing, and I went back to sleep. But I caught myself once, and even Todd tried to act all calm, cool, and collective, because he's like, how he is about his faith and his relationship with Jesus. And he's like, it just doesn't like ever affect him. And I get that. I'm with him. But like, I noticed in his bathroom, he had 3 brand new fresh towels sitting on his counter in his bathroom. And I'm like, have those been there since you came in? And he's like, I don't know. And I could tell, man. And I was being serious. Like, I didn't remember. And I could tell he was like, yeah. But that was the only time I kind of got him on edge too. But anyway, it was a fun week. And none of that made YouTube. And there was all that stuff recorded, but Scott was like, we're not going to use it, because he didn't want to make somebody mad. I was like, I would use all that stuff.
Oh yeah, that's classic, man.
So hold on. I'm sorry. Did I miss it? How did all this get started? Was it just the picture that somebody photoshopped?
Andrew started it.
That was karma. It's karma. It just came back around.
Yeah, it came back to him.
Yeah,
so that's why I was like, they were like, we had to tell him, and I'm like, he's the one that started it. What do you mean you had to tell him?
There was no reason though behind it. Like, just pick that house out of the whole season.
Andrew picked that out of the complete blue sky.
Okay.
And made this haunted. Murders had been committed in this house, off this house we were staying in, just out of nowhere. Wow. And it was really good. I mean, dude, it was. He did a good job with it. Man, we're always poking and prodding in that house. I mean, all our houses, that's kind of, you know, we're all pretty good friends. And so that's what makes it. I mean, dude, the opens are the opens. So, like, you got to have some quality of life. That's it.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about traveling, like doing tournaments and stuff. Is that kind of stuff, man. It's just, especially if you get a group of guys like what you had, where you're staying with the same group of guys.
Dude, it makes such a big difference to be able to come in with friends like that, and then like I cook or Todd cooks. Scott always brought the Traeger grill because he's with Traeger doing all that. We would cook every night, get big groceries starting the week, and big meals and big dinner table. And I do a deal called High-Low High, and we'd all go around the table, and like it makes life better, no doubt.
It helps it feel like home.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
This is Hallman try Yamamoto D Shad with VMC drop dead worm. Weighted hook. Oh my goodness, I can't read. It's getting late.
16, 3 or 4/0 casting reel, 14 to 15 fluoro money. So he is right about that. The Yamamoto D Shad. I do know about that. It has a little bit different action, and he's correct. Go back to that one more time. Do you know where that was at?
That one?
Yeah.
Drop dead
weighted. What is dead weighted hook mean? Drop dead weighted hook. I got a feeling that guy knows what he's talking about there. I don't know what a drop dead weighted hook is. Oh, I think I do. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about that one that comes with that weighted hook on the back end, up underneath. It's almost like an EWG style, but it has that weighted, like for a swim bait.
Oh, on the bend, or right at the bend.
Yep. 16 pounds, 3 or 4/0 on casting. Okay, I like that. No swivel, Mark? That's my question. Swivel or no swivel in front of it?
Man, I'd have a swivel just for line twists, regardless of, you know, besides the weight, just for the line twist.
Try Gordon says look up the VMC hooks.
Okay.
Just waiting on Mark. No rush here, Mark, but we're waiting on you.
Swivel or no swivel?
Yeah, that is something I want to work on this winter, man. It really is. That's something I need to figure out because.
Is that something that you'd use all over the country or just out east?
No, it's a blueback herring deal. Any lake's got blueback herring.
Gotcha.
That blueback herring, like I tease guys that it took me 5 years to learn how to spell blueback. They just relate so different. They make the fish relate different. They're more like stripers. That's how we would relate to them. They make our fish, those bass, act like stripers. So like the biggest fish in the lake are out there schooling and chasing. But they're, you know, like on our lakes, when you saw those schooling fish in September and stuff, yeah, you can go out there and catch fish, but you might catch one decent one, but like it's not the big ones. Like go to a dock and flip a jig. That's where you're gonna catch a 6-pounder, but not on those lakes. The biggest fish in the lake are out there chasing constantly.
Oh,
drop dead hook.
Let's see if I can do that.
Just go to like Tackle Warehouse or something. I'm sure they got it on there. See what it looks like.
Wow, I can't type either.
Curious to see what it looks like.
That's what a lot of your listeners probably likes, this detail about baits. There's no doubt that I say that it's that part of the country, yes. But dude, I mean, y'all probably know guys like me. I've got buddies here at home in Oklahoma throw that fluke and have a lot of success, catch big ones, win tournaments with it. I just never been a big fluke guy.
I've gotten away from them. I actually, it's been several years. I got to where I was throwing like a straight-tailed worm instead of a fluke because you don't get that line twist.
Yeah,
it glides kind of back and forth.
Well, if you throw it on braid and just tie an FG knot, you don't have to even have a swivel. Like it doesn't matter because it won't twist your line very much, you know.
There you go.
Those 10 and 20 pound braids, though, you can throw them a mile, but they float.
Yeah,
they float more than fluorocarbon for sure. You know, which making that bait come out of the water.
That drop dead hook has got a screw lock on it.
Okay.
And then it's got the weight right at the bend. Yep. It's got shrink wrap around the weight. Just gonna try to pull it up here real quick.
Okay. Who makes the drop dead?
VMC.
It's a VMC.
VMC. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yes, sir. Yep. That's what I was thinking. It was going to kind of look like. I didn't expect the screw lock on it though, but that makes sense.
And I do have some of those, but I was using them for swim baits in the grass.
Now he said to throw that on 10-pound test braid on a spinning rod. And they're probably leaving it exposed. That's the other thing. So like in a lot of parts of the country, like where I live, you know, we always expose it, right? Put it back in the plastic. But I bet they're leaving it up above just a little bit so that it's open.
Is that what they do in those blueback lakes, is leave that hook open?
Yeah, they'll leave it a little open because it's, you know, I mean, it's wide open water.
No swivel works good in Arkansas, according to Mark.
Okay. I do think that weighted hook is definitely important.
We can go back to that one.
Is it that one?
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. We're back. Cool. Anybody out there got any more questions? We've been on here for about 2 hours, and we'll start winding this sucker down. What about you?
Like we just started. Have we really been on there that long?
I know, man. It goes by so fast. It's one of the cool things about this.
I don't understand how, like, Matt gets a show in like an hour and 15 minutes where every
I don't know. You know, he's got that clock, so he's got to run his commercials, which is different than what most of us are doing. And I think maybe those commercials and feeding back in kind of helps him break it up and know where he's at. I will say this. I mean, compared to what BTL used to be, I mean, they were much shorter, you know, years ago. Mark used to stay on about 1 hour, and now Matt's way over that. But feedback that we get from guys, I mean, so many people consume our content, just like your guys, that they're not watching this, even if it's on YouTube. They're not watching. They're you know, they're either UPS drivers or, you know, some type of work where they don't have to, they just put ear pods in or they're listening to it and they can work while they're listening, you know. And that's how a lot of this material is being consumed by consumers. Do you guys use podcasts? Do y'all load your stuff up on Apple or anything?
No, it's just YouTube right now.
Yeah.
I've almost did that a couple times, and
I think it would be wise to put it in MP3 form. I really do. And I would like to know what your feedback is if you do that, because I've thought about just doing it with a lot of my YouTube stuff, especially Todd. He talks so much about stuff that he's, you know, there's no diagrams needed. He's just talking, but I'd be interested in what your feedback is, what your success rate is on the MP3 format, because if you can get it to that iTunes, dude, I think there's even a bigger customer base there.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that a couple of days ago. I need to do that, and I just haven't done it. And it's not, once you get it set up, it's not too, you know, it doesn't take, it's not really time consuming. I think the initial setup takes a while, but then after that, just kind of plug and play. You just,
I think Panger's in the studio after we go off air. He's in there for about 15 to 20 minutes, and that's getting his YouTube loaded up and getting his MP3 format loaded down and back into iTunes.
Okay.
And that's where his biggest bump is. I mean, dude, Bass Talk Live is by far, not even close, the biggest thing in the industry as far as podcasts go. His numbers are not on YouTube. His numbers are on podcast.
Right.
It is insane.
I've very seldom do I ever watch BTL on YouTube unless they're talking about something that I want to see what they're talking about, the diagram, the picture, the bait, whatever.
Yeah.
But I hardly ever. I mean, I drive for a living, so it's
So you kind of know exactly what I'm talking about then.
Yeah, I put it on the car and I go. Yeah,
you definitely need to try y'all's podcast there, man. Set it up that way and then holler at me. I want to know about it.
Okay, I'll do that. I just need a little push to do that.
You blocked Earl's 18 site? I can't imagine.
Yeah, we get those right towards the end of the show just about every time.
It's always towards the end?
I tell you what, and it came from Brian de Carpenter. We had Brian de Carpenter on, and that was like
from the Ike Live show. Or
the first night we had him on. It was
he brought the trash with him.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
He did. We had all kinds of riffraff on there after that show.
That sounds like him.
Yep. And it's just been kind of ever since then, they just kind of show up towards the end.
We got a couple moderators that help control it, but
yeah. Dude, he's a great dude. I went up and spent some time with him and did some studio stuff with him, and I stayed over there by his house, and he was like, "Let's go to the bar." I was like, "All right, where's the bar?" And like the bar is his garage, and he's got his little aluminum boat pulled in.
Oh yeah,
and all these really cool artifacts everywhere. And dude, we got so tore up sitting in there just visiting. We were in there all night long. I was like, I'm just going to sleep on the boat.
That's where he did the podcast.
Yeah, that
from
boat's
that night.
pimped out. That boat is.
He's such a good dude, man. He is.
What old school baits do you still use?
Old school baits that I still use. Bandit 200s.
All right.
Any rogues?
And I was on the road for a long time, but not anymore. Once the Spro McStick has replaced that for me. They do the same thing. They have that dead action. You can't throw that dang rogue. Like it will not cast.
It's tough.
LBJ, that's old school.
That is
old school.
That's like the original old school, right?
It is.
I didn't know what that was for a long time.
Bedlam. I actually named one of the colors of the BFE Bedlam. That was our color contest. That was the winner. Instead of just being black neon, which is black with a red flake, we put orange flake on one side of that BFE, and the other side is red for Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And we named that bait Bedlam, the color. Back to my Oklahoma ties. See, I tell you, I always got to go back to Oklahoma. Where is my phone? So I was thinking about, y'all were asking about the music right when we started. So I'll play y'all what I'm really leaning towards.
All right.
You want to hear this?
Yeah, heck yeah.
So it's definitely got Oklahoma tie. It is red dirt. It's Jason Bolin. Y'all know who Jason Bolin is? The Stragglers?
No, that's new to me.
Well, he's old school red dirt. No doubt. Jason Bolin's old school red dirt. And
Cross Canadian Ragwing sings a song about him.
Oh yeah, they were all up there in Stillwater together.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to go to my music to find it, I guess. I thought I had it pulled up right when I could play it. But it's an old song. But it's he redid it. And I believe that it was a Don Williams song.
Rich is going to hook me up. He's going to set me up with the podcast format. 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's worth it.
I need to do it. I've been thinking about it forever.
Yeah. Tell Rich to call me because I'm thinking about turning some of my stuff into it too.
Okay.
Y'all know that old tune?
Da-na-na-na. No, what's the name of the song?
It's live. Hang on, I'll play it for you. You'll get it right off the bat. Can you hear it good?
Yeah. I like it. I like it. Yeah, Tulsa Time. Yeah. Got it. Yep. I felt the groove. I'm like,
was
okay.
Who was the original songwriter?
Living on Tulsa Time.
I think it was Don Williams was the first one to do it.
Oh yeah, that's a good one, man. That's a good one.
But that's a little bit of red dirt version of it from an Okie singing it in Stillwater and at the bars up there and live band and Tulsa Time.
Tyler Childers is from where? Kentucky or?
Yeah, he is. Tyler Childers got some good stuff. I agree. So
you're on the road, you got to find some good music to listen to because it gets podcasts won't take you so far.
I know it, but I listen to all that red dirt stuff and there's a lot of new red dirt out there. Like you said, Cody Jinks, man, is killer.
I like Billy Strings. You ever listen to Billy Strings?
No,
bluegrassy.
Is it bluegrass?
Yeah, he's good. He's got.
I'm a sucker for the fiddle and I'm a sucker for the banjo. Always have been.
Okay. Yeah, the
My
banjo.
outro music on my YouTube is, and I've had a lot of guys say I should use that. It's just straight fiddle. There's nothing but fiddle playing, and it's just me. It's just me.
Yeah, I like all that stuff. We got at our church. We got a banjo player that jumps in every once in a while, and he sings like he's from the Appalachian Mountains. He's got that. He's got that holler down in the holler voice. I don't know where it comes from. It blows me away. He doesn't look. You look at him and you're like, that's not going to come out of this guy, and it just comes out of this guy. You're like, where'd that come from?
Is it like the little guy that's got that really deep voice?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Yeah. You don't see it coming until you start
So
singing.
let me ask y'all some questions. Whose house are y'all in?
What's that?
Whose house are y'all in?
Always
My
is.
house.
I don't have internet at my house.
Awesome answer. That's a good reason not to go live from your house.
Right.
Are you downstairs, upstairs, second floor, first floor?
We are downstairs. Yep.
So are you underground?
No. Well, I got a walkout basement. So the front part of the basement is underground.
Is behind your back, is that dirt behind that wall or no?
No, that's underground behind us.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Behind us.
The acoustics.
There's another wall. There's another wall behind another room behind this.
Okay.
Wall.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like the log cabin look. Is the whole house that way?
No, just downstairs.
Okay. I really like that. That's sharp.
Yeah, we redid it down here. When we bought this house like 14 years ago, and before we moved in, I was staying with my wife now, but she was just a girlfriend back then, and we lived in her apartment for like 6 months while me and my stepdad renovated this house. We gutted it, and it hadn't been, basically the house was built in like 71 and it was original. So it had like shag carpet, and it's got a lot of like.
This is how she knew she was going to marry you. She was like, "This dude will do this right here. He's serious."
I learned a lot. I didn't know how to do that stuff, and he taught me how to do all that stuff. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't even know what was underneath the toilet. Like, I didn't even know, like when you pull a toilet, I didn't know what was underneath there. I just never seen it. So he showed me how to do all that. Showed me how to lay tile, how to lay hardwood floor, plumbing, lighting, all that stuff. And we went through, and
that's cool.
Yeah, we spent probably like 4 months redoing this house before we moved in. And now her and her mom did the log cabin stuff down here in the basement. And I like it. I appreciate you telling me that.
Yeah, it looks great. Great.
We're building a house now, and probably May we'll move in there, and then I've got a studio. I'll be making it like a legit studio with.
All right. So let me tell you from construction, because I worked in it forever. So May's your point, and start really thinking about September. That's just how it goes. Don't get all upset in May.
Well, you're probably right. I know we had such good summer for building. We had such a good summer for building. There was like
hasn't rained here.
Yeah, there was hardly any rain.
So,
and there was a lot, like the fall. We had like a month and a half of 70-degree days.
Yeah.
So, they could work pretty much all day long, and no rain delays really. So they got really far, and they just got it under roof right before this cold front hit, like a week ago.
That's good.
The cold front hit on Saturday, and they got the shingles put on Friday. So it was perfect timing. But there's no windows in it. So they've been busting their ass to get the windows in because it's so cold in there now. It's so breezy.
Once you get sheetrock on the walls, you're going to be like, yeah, we're there. And I'm just telling you, that's when it kind of starts crawling generally.
Okay.
Yeah, I sold sheetrock for a while.
Yeah, everybody thinks once the sheetrock's delivered, they're like, oh my God, we got to be close. And I don't know what it is with trim carpenters. There's probably some of them on here, but they're the biggest damn prima donnas in construction ever. And they have a hard time just getting in and getting the hell out. And then
Jim was a home builder for 35 years.
Yeah. Trim carpenters, man. Prima donnas of construction.
Bale Fleck.
They got they had the least amount of tools out of all trades.
Yeah, and they're only there for one time. Like the plumbers are there when it's dirt, and then they're there when it's framed, then they're there at the end. But those guys and get ready for your checkbook too. They're the most expensive. And it's not all their fault because a lot of that material is really expensive.
Yeah,
but what makes your house? It's like what's behind me. It's what sets your house off, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say nobody cares about the drywall and who delivered the drywall and how many cracks it had in the drywall, but as long as it's mudded and taped and you don't think about all that stuff until you sit in the house and you look at a skeleton.
Yeah.
So
I got to do that. I got to go through the house, and probably about March, I got to go through and just do all the touch up stuff. I still got like where me and your brother put in the windows in this house.
Mhm.
There's still some places that need like some spackling and stuff around the windows.
right.
I got 90% of it done, but there's a couple windows that I never got to because it's
Time
man,
gets away from you.
yeah, it's hard to not go fishing for 2 or 3 weeks when you have a project. It drives me nuts. Like out here in front, all the paving stones that we did,
Mhm.
I did that right in the middle of the spawn. I started that like last part of April, first part of May, and I thought I can get this knocked out in 3 days. It took me like 3 weeks. So I didn't get to go fishing for 3 weeks when the fish are stupid and they're up shallow and they're biting anything and you look like a pro when you're going down the bank. I missed all that because I was out there like doing paved-stones out in the yard. It was driving me nuts. Driving me absolutely nuts.
You realize you're talking to the guy that missed from like February till June.
Yeah.
Baseball.
Oh, that's right.
Well, that's understandable, man. I mean, I get that. I do.
Yeah.
I get all that.
You got 4 kids. You know what it's like.
Everybody gets that, man. I mean, if they don't, then, not American. Like, kids come first and their stuff and their ball. It only happens once.
That's right.
And there's no going back and seeing that again, ever.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's so true. That's so true.
And even worse when you get roped into coaching it. So
Yeah, I've gone down that route, and then my kid breaks their arm 1 week into the season, and there I am coaching a team that like have a kid on the team. I've done that. Went skating. I was like, hey, "You're going to what? A skating party? Don't fall down and break your arm." Yep. Call from the ER. We're getting a cast. We fell and broke our arm. I'm like, oh my God! I just signed up for all this coaching.
Well, that's always like when I was growing up, Dad always preached to me. It's like, if it wasn't a sport that you're playing, you better be careful because we got a lot of time and money invested in, and you playing this sport. Don't get hurt doing something stupid.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And to a point, it's like he goes out and rides his bike. And granted, he's playing 9U baseball, but it's still like, all right, boy, like we live out in the country and we live on a lake. Gabe knows the house. I mean, it's straight down the hill into the pond. If it was my house when I was a kid, oh my goodness. Like we would have slip and slides. We would have had ramps to ride our bikes off into the lake. I mean, it's 18 foot off the end of my dock.
Yeah.
What do you think we would be doing? We'd be riding our bike down that hill.
Riding a bicycle right off the end of it.
Yep. You'd have a 5-gallon bucket and a plank of wood.
Oh, every bit of it. Every bit of it. But now it's as a dad and have to pay that bill when they get hurt. It's like, don't you do that, boy.
Yeah, exactly. I know it, but man, it's fun. Live dangerously when you're young.
Oh, heck yeah. We just disappear. I mean, we had hundreds and hundreds of acres behind our house when I grew up. It's where Bent Creek Golf Course is at now. Yeah. Well, back in the day, that was all none of that was there. And we disappear, man. We disappear. We'd get up in the morning about
you and Frank
8, 9 o'clock, be gone. Yeah. We'd come back when the street light was on. That's when Mama said, come back to the house. Street light comes on. You need to be in the house. And I don't even think we ate. I think we just left, but we had a lot of fun running around the woods and riding bikes and stuff.
You gonna be at the Classic this spring?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'll be there.
Right.
I'm gonna try to get down to Classic and iCast are like the 2 non-negotiables with most everybody as far as companies and support. Like those are the 2 that are mandatory. You better be there at those 2.
I'm gonna try to get back down to this one this year, so it's close enough to the house. So you've never been, have you?
No, we need to set that.
Knoxville's a great place to go too, man.
Heck yeah, Knoxville was a blast.
Knoxville's great.
Yeah, I need to go. I mean, this is probably the closest it's ever going to be, so I need to jump on it.
Yeah.
So.
It's what, 6?
Yeah, 6.
It's like 5-6 hours from us.
Yeah.
Really?
Good. Yeah.
What? It ain't 5 or 6 hours for y'all. There's no way. To Knoxville?
Yeah.
All right, so let me inform y'all about the state of Tennessee. When you get to Memphis, just because you're in Tennessee, you're still from Memphis, and it's straight on I-40. From Memphis to Knoxville is 4, 5, 6, 7. I bet it's 7 hours from Memphis to Knoxville.
Oh, well, then it's 10 for us then.
No, right? It's not.
How far is Memphis?
Knoxville from here? I've been to Knoxville.
Look it up, dude.
I'm looking at
Memphis to Knoxville is 7 hours.
Pulling a boat.
How far is Memphis from here? 2.5?
It's probably close to 4 hours from Nashville and then another 3 hours from Nashville to Knoxville. Now,
Knoxville from here is 6 hours and 16 minutes.
from St. Louis?
No, we're south of St. Louis. We're
an hour and a half south.
We're
of
like
St.
an
Louis.
hour and a half from Memphis.
Nah, 2 hours from Memphis.
And it's 6.5 hours to Knoxville? Okay. I bet
Memphis is farther west than us.
Okay, I'm with you. All right.
We're on the if you look at the state of Missouri, we're on.
So if I left Memphis and you left where y'all were, we'd be about the same distance mileage wise, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're right on the Mississippi River.
All right.
How far is Memphis exactly?
Memphis.
You got me curious. Yeah.
Oh, it's farther than I thought. It's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I thought it was 2.5. Yeah, so Memphis is 2.5, St. Louis is an hour and a half, and we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, there's somebody
Right
on
the Mississippi.
It's 5 hours.
See, we're 3.5 from Nashville.
Yeah.
So,
I'm throwing that in there. I mean, you can probably make it from Memphis to Nashville in 3.5 probably nowadays, with especially the speed limits being faster than what they used to be. And then Nashville to Knoxville's probably closer to 2.5 than 3. But
3 hours.
it's a long way from Nashville to Knoxville.
Well, you got to get on anything on Interstate 24, and you might as well just sit and wait.
Yeah.
So
the way y'all go, y'all are going to just go through Nashville, right? Like y'all would just come down through Nashville and then shoot over. Yeah, I get that.
When's the last time you've been to Nashville, Bradley? Last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, you'd like stay in Nashville and been there?
Just been there on that road. Have they fixed that interstate?
I don't know. No, last time I was through there, man, that interstate was still bad.
Well, I'm not going to go until they fix that because that about tore my car up.
It's bad. I agree. I know exactly what you're talking about. It
was holes the size of a sheet of plywood.
I know it. It was, and they're like a foot deep too.
Yes,
I agree.
You just got to go faster.
You get in the left lane, you got to go 93.
In downtown Nashville. I mean, it's in a bad spot. I know exactly what he's talking about. I'm sure we drove through there this year, and I just don't remember. But because that I-40 for me, like depending on where you live, but like that I-40 for me from Oklahoma City to Memphis, basically, I have seen more times than I care to see in my life. I get excited when we get to go somewhere else. I love coming out of Oklahoma City and turning right and going west, because it's just so different. I love doing that.
So where are you at?
Huh?
Where are you at, Norman?
I'm in, Norman, Oklahoma City, Edmond. Yeah, I'm just in the Oklahoma City metro.
I always forget Oklahoma's farther south than we are. Quite a bit farther south than we
are. Yeah. Our winters aren't too bad. It's not Texas, but we shouldn't complain because I know when I'm on this stuff, doing this stuff, a lot of guys are a lot colder than I am. But I'm just like y'all. It takes me a while to get used to the cold weather when I start fishing in the winter.
It's 6.
What was y'all's water temperatures today? That was something I was wondering when y'all were talking about jerking.
Yeah, I had in the creek that the boat ramp is in, it was 47.
Wow.
But then the main lake, kind of up towards some bluffy areas, it's more rocky. I saw 52 in the afternoon.
Okay.
And we
were
like 53.
We were
right?
52, 53, yeah.
So your water's already a lot colder than ours. Ours is still like in the high 50s and low 60s. So, yeah. And we just went fishing a couple of days ago, and that's part of the problem why I thought we didn't catch them very good was because I don't think it's cold enough yet for the bait ball. It's starting to ball up, but the fish that are chasing them are not bass, and it's kind of what I'm wanting to get into.
That's where we're at right now. The fish that we caught today, I mean,
bait balls.
They were not related to the bait. Like you didn't want to be
right.
You wanted to be away from it. So
yeah, and then all the fish. Well, at the lake I was fishing at, all the bait is out in the middle, like in the middle of the main lake, just out in the gut of the main lake in 25 foot. And there wasn't hardly any fish relating to them. So I don't know. I might go tomorrow. I don't know. When I have a rough day on the lake, I like to go back the next day and start where I left off at. Because right there towards the end of the day, I started getting some bites, but I was out of time. And I'm just dying to go back to see. I'm either going to stink it up and be even more lost, or I'm going to take off from where I left off and feel better about myself.
Are you going back there tomorrow?
I think so.
Y'all should set up. So I got an idea for y'all. There's somebody on here kind of mentioned it, and I kind of like the idea. I know this sounds crazy right now, but y'all should set up a tour of the Classic, and you should get a bus, a big bus, rent one of those big buses with the driver and everything.
It doesn't sound crazy. What are you talking about?
With the bathroom, in it, especially as close as y'all are, and set up like 2 or 3 stops along the way, so where you could stop and pick up more people to join the bus, more of your listeners. Call a hotel over there in Knoxville and block out so many rooms, and then get it down to where the price for everybody, and you've got breakfast at the hotel, and like just do a dinner every night after and get the bus to take you from the expo over to the weigh-in, or however all that works, or pick you up at the weigh-in, and then go to dinner with everybody, and then back to the hotel, and then when it's all done, the bus goes back out, right back up to y'all, and make your 2 or 3 stops to drop everybody off on the way back through. That's a freaking awesome plan. That would be 10-horse Monty Classic experience.
Yeah, that would be good content. Right
and then we'll get like Bradley
content. And you can do live every night.
Along with us, right?
Huh?
Bradley Hallman right along with us, right?
Yeah, you probably pick me up at Nashville. That Classic for me is just work. That's all I do is work. Like, it's just expo work the whole time. But I hardly have any energy to get up in the next morning. It's so much. But dude, that would be a great idea for you guys. I'm gonna run it by Panger. I'm gonna be like, dude, you ought to get a BTL bus and go out there. Like,
that'd be fun.
Great idea. Book a bunch of rooms and like get everybody, and you could go to dinner and party every night with everybody, and then go back to the hotel in the morning. Everybody goes back to the expo. It's a great idea.
It's a great idea, but I'm not riding a bus for 7 hours.
Dude, those buses are great. They're big and comfortable. And my mom just got off of one. She just went to Nashville with a couple of people.
Really?
She showed me the deal. I was like, "Were you the youngest person there?" And she goes, "I think so." She's 73, and she was the youngest one on the bus. But dude, I think it'd be a cool idea.
Daniel says I need to bring the fiddle.
Yeah, you can bring the fiddle.
I play bass. I don't play fiddle.
Okay, I said it.
Fiddle's hard, man. It
well, you play bass, not bass.
No, I can play upright bass.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I play electric bass.
My littlest girl, she's playing the fiddle right now. She's taking fiddle lessons. Of course, they call it the violin.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, that's a damn fiddle, girl.
It's if in a classic music, it's the violin. And I think in country or red dirt or whatever, it's the fiddle.
Yeah,
I think it's the same thing.
I just know she takes lessons, and I make her listen to fiddle music. I had an album I found the other day. It was Merle Haggard, and he was playing with Texas Playboys. So, like, it's the best damn fiddle players to ever play, and it's a whole album of him singing. The guy's name that played with the Texas Playboys, Bob Wills. Probably you guys probably don't know who that is, but he was a Texas, Oklahoma guy. Played in Tulsa, Canes all the time, way long ago.
I watched a really good program the other night. It was this Garth Brooks getting inducted into the Library of Congress show. Yeah. Dude, that was good. I mean, I got nothing to get against Garth Brooks at all. I mean, he's a legend, but it's not something I listen to a whole lot, honestly. Yeah. But that show, holy moly! If anybody is out there and you see that come across the YouTubes or whatever, it's actually not on YouTube. It was on PBS. So if you see it come across, take the time and watch it. It was impressive. I got a ton more respect for that dude.
I tell you what, I got to see Garth for the first time earlier this year, and if you never got to see Garth Brooks in concert,
he's legit. We went out to Vegas and saw him. So when that tour that you saw, the very first one that he put on was out in Las Vegas in that brand new stadium that they just built for the Raiders. Like, nobody had been there at all. Garth was the very first one, and we flew out to Vegas. And I'm like you guys, like, Garth's not my favorite country music artist of all time by no means, but it was cool to go out there. It was a good experience, and he does put on a phenomenal show.
What you see on TV, what he sounds like on radio, he sounds just like that in person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's talented. There's no doubt.
I like when they do a lot of cover songs. It kind of shows you their roots and where they're coming from. Right. I think it's something about just seeing.
He just didn't write enough of his music. It's just not him, and that's the part I don't.
Yeah. Garth is an entertainer.
He is. I saw him at Johnny Morse's deal out there at Branson.
He's a huge He's one of the biggest names in the industry by far.
Yeah, bourbon and Marfell is all I will need on that bus. That's true.
Rod and I were talking about our bourbon collections this afternoon.
Dude, I will make y'all a promise. Y'all put this damn thing together and I'll be there. I'll be on that bus. I'll take the bus all the way to the Classic and all the way home.
We had to pick you up in Nashville, right? That's the only okay.
No, I mean I'll get on it with y'all. I'll drive to y'all's house and I'll go from there.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Dude, that's a great idea.
It'd be fun.
I mean, nobody's thought about it. Can you imagine the Luke Duncan traveling bus? I mean, oh my God. It'd be good, dude.
That'd be legendary.
It would be. Y'all could do that. The 10-horse Monty Classic Experience.
Classic Experience. You already got a name for it. Classic Experience.
That's what we need. And then we just reach out to everybody that we've had on and be like, this is what we're doing. I mean, Luke Duncan, he has his concert at the Classic every year or whatever, but we got the bus. Like the road to the show.
Just call like the local Holiday Inn, somewhere it's got nice rooms. I mean, everybody's country folks. They don't have to have the freaking 5-star, just something that's clean and nice and shower drains and the toilet flushes and got, clean sheets on it. And we're happy.
We have to bring the ghosts too.
And the ghost stories.
Yeah.
The haunted hotel. Yeah, you could hand out pamphlets. Right as they're getting off the bus about the murders.
This is where we're staying at.
Yeah.
Hotel hell.
Yeah. This is what happened in room 102. This is what happened in room 103.
Hell, you talk about clean sheets. We're all fishermen. It doesn't take much to satisfy us.
Yeah, I don't like pulling back the sheets and finding people's hair and stuff in them.
No, I don't either. But I've stayed in some pretty rough places in my time.
I'll tell you, I have too. But I sleep on top of the. I have stuff that I carry with me. I carry an air mattress. So these are the things that are needed as a pro bass fisherman. You have to have an air mattress. You have to have your own set of sheets. That way you can throw down anywhere, no matter how bad it gets. You're like, okay, I'm good. I got my own bed. Dude, my air mattress even has a back headboard to it. Like you just plug it in the wall and boom, it's up. You plug it in the wall and boom, it's down. And it all goes in one bag with all the sheets and covers and pillows. And like it just stays in my truck. And I may not use it for 3 or 4 months, and then we'll roll in a place, and I'll be like, I'm good. I'll sleep on my air.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys that just sleep on the top of the bed and in their clothes.
Yep.
They got multiple layers of protection from bed bugs.
Yep.
We've had some mouse.
Yeah, we had a mouse adventure down at Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, that was. It's hard to sleep when there's a mouse in the house. It was like it wasn't a Fin and Feather, was it?
Fin and Feather Fisherman's Headquarters.
At Toledo Bend?
What's that?
At Toledo Bend?
No, on Kentucky Lake. It was on Kentucky Lake.
But it was
oh, you're Rich, you're in, definitely.
We walked in and we're not like giant like tall guys, but you're like 6'3".
I'm 6'1.5", 6'2".
Yeah,
you're 6'3", right?
Yeah, I'm 6'2". But like we were inches away from the ceiling, and we try to bring your rods in there. It's like this place was built for pistol grips and 5.6s. I mean, it wasn't built for 7.5 foot flipping sticks.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah, but that was a fun night. That's
years ago. So Derek Remitz and I were roommates for 6 years. And we lived on the budget back then. I mean, the budget. And we had an elite series down in Zapata on the Mexican border on Lake Falcon. And we got this hotel. The beds were on center blocks. Now, we paid like $125 for the week. So it was like $75 a piece for us to stay there. There was no other elite series anglers staying at this hotel with us, to say the least. But Derek and I were good. This is how we rolled. And I bought some groceries, and I had a loaf of bread that I'd bought for us to make sandwiches and stuff. And I set it up had like a little half. It wasn't a kitchen, but a counter up there, kind of like a little bait kitchen. We went to bed and went to sleep. The next morning, dude, Remitz goes, I'll never forget this. He goes, man, we got mice. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, they got in the bread last night. And I looked over there, and he's pointing at it. And there's like 2 pieces of bread, and the bag is like ripped all the crap, And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, look, it's got holes in it. It was mice. I was like, dude, them ain't mice. Those are rats. ate the whole damn loaf.
Next level mice.
Big pack rats.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Well, we had
We stayed there.
The one that we were talking about. So we're sitting there. This is like we were down there for what, one night?
Yeah.
So we're getting our stuff ready, and it's dimly lit. Of course, a lot of those places don't have the greatest lighting in there. But we're getting tackle ready, and I just like right here, corner of your eye, you just see.
Yep.
What was that?
Yeah.
A little bit later.
Yeah.
Dude, we got a mouse in here. He was up on the stove, and I think you put some crackers out or something.
No, that sucker ran across my chest.
That's right.
I was laying on my back,
Yeah.
sleeping on a couch or something. I don't know, in the middle of the night, and it freaking ran. I felt something run across my chest, and it had to be that mouse.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, and so I couldn't sleep after that. Obviously, I mean, you're up. It just freaks you out. But that's the same set of cabins where Robert Wade was staying there with his buddy. So the story goes like this, and I've told this before, but there's a lot of new viewers on here tonight. But they were down there pre-fishing at Kentucky Lake in this little small cabin, and they got back late or something. I don't know. Anyway, guy bought a bag of peanut butter crackers. So he's got like 4 or 5 packs of peanut butter crackers. He's got them in a brown paper sack. He throws them on the table there at night before they go to bed. They wake up in the morning early. They grab their crab off the table, and he takes that bag and he puts it in the glove box in his boat. So they're out there fishing later on in the day, and they thought they heard something. They weren't really sure, a little bit later they hear something else, and they start pinning it down, and they pin it down to the glove box, and they open the glove box. And then they're listening. They can kind of hear some noise in there. They grab that paper sack out there.
Yeah.
And they hear it, and there's a mouse inside of that paper sack. It had crawled in there, and they just grabbed it in the morning and threw them in the glove box. But that was the same set of little cabins where the mouse ran across my chest. So obviously they got a mouse problem.
Yeah. I got some mouse problem right now in my house. Every fall, our house is kind of like out in the woods, and there are a bunch of pastures around me. And I think the farmers cut all the tall grass down, to bail everything up the last time. And I think all the mice go to scurrying, and they run right to my house.
I had one last winter die in my wall.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah, my wife, she's scared to death of them, and she's always wanting to poison them. So like if I'm not home, she's got poison everywhere. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. But she don't want to deal with the traps. I'm like, just pick it up and throw it in the trash. Like, just grab a part of it. The mouse is not on, but she's not a part of it. She's poisoning them. So we fight them at all ends here.
Well, that's not the way you want to find one that's poison dead in the wall.
No, because the smell. But I'll tell you this, because dude, I've done it. It will go away within a few weeks, months.
Yeah,
or so.
Yeah. Except for it's right next to where I sit on the couch in the evenings. And
you do smell
TV.
it. It's rough. It will go away though.
Yep, it did. That was the first year we were in that house.
Yep. Yeah, we've got a bunch of them here, and snakes and everything else. And then my wife freaks out about the snakes, and I'm like, well, that's what's eating the mice. That's why they're here. They're attracted to it.
Right.
That was what I was worried about with Derek, because like mice I can live with, but rats, those are pack rats. They're huge. They're like the size of a cat. And there was the snakes down there, the rattlesnakes were big enough to eat those rats. And like that scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, the first time I heard of pack rats was out in Colorado at this cabin, and they actually grab cans.
They're that big. You're serious? They're that big?
Pack. Yes, they hoard. They're like little hoarder rats.
Really?
Dude, we've got a Camaro. It's a 2002 Z28. It's got the Corvette engine in it and stuff. It's like the last year they were going to make Camaros. Yeah, that happened. But anyway, it's got like 17,000 miles. It just sits in the garage covered. And it's my wife's little car, and she used to drive from time to time. Anyway, it's a 6-speed standard. It's a badass car. And I was gone, and she calls me, and she's like, something's wrong with this Camaro. It's really nice outside. And I took the cover off, and like, it won't run. Like I said, well, take it up there to my buddy Kenny's. Just drop by and see if he'll look at it real quick. She drives up there, and Kenny calls me, and he's like, dude, your wife's out here, and your freaking hood of that car is just plumb full of dog food. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, full all the way. So I raise the hood. I can't see anything but dog food. He said, I just told her you need to drive that back home. And when Brad gets home, let him vacuum all that out. And I was like, pack rat? He goes, oh, yeah, pack rat. I'd got to noticing the dog food in the garage was like missing. Like it was the bag was going too quick for the dogs. It was the pack rats, and they run in pairs too, by the way, guys. They're never by themselves. There's always two. They were getting the dog food out of it and then taking it to the Camaro and climbing up in the hood, and they had filled the entire engine compartment full of dog food. And anyway, so she leaves, and then Kenny calls me back about 10 minutes later. And he goes, "Oh, and tell her to come back and get this damn rat." He jumped out of the car, and he's out there in the hedge bushes in front of my store. I said, "I bet he's a big one." He goes, "Dude, that sucker weighs 20 pounds." Eating all that dog food.
Oh, I had that happen 2 years ago. My work car. It wasn't a pack rat. It was just a mouse. But we got like 8 or 9 inches of snow, and where I live out in the country, my work car, I have to take my car to work. That car to work. I can't drive anything else to work. They won't let me drive my truck or anything. But it's 2-wheel drive, and I got a hill to climb to get out of my subdivision that's in the shade. Yeah. We don't get snow in southeast Missouri. We get ice. So it's a sheet of ice. I can't get out. Well, I started the car, warmed it up, and then let it set for 2 days. Well, I get on the highway, not thinking about it. This is probably a month goes by, and all of a sudden, like I'm down south. It's a Friday afternoon. I'm ready to go home. And it says low power mode, just shuts off, and I can go like 30 mile an hour on the highway. I got her mashed to the floor, and she ain't doing nothing. Mm-hmm. What in the world? So I pull over, turn the car off, turn the car back on, get it home. Okay, we made it all the way home, no problem. Started acting up again, took it into the shop. Guy looked at it, and he calls me in there like an hour later. He's like, "I want to show you something." I was like, "All right." He goes, "You see that pile of shit laying out there in the driveway?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That was in your air breather."
Oh, my God.
Now, keep in mind, that car sat for 2 days, and they built a nest in my air breather.
Oh, yeah.
Just a giant nest.
Or rat?
A mouse.
A mouse.
Yeah. Okay. They had went to work because it was warm in there. It was dry. We had 8 inches of snow on the ground. They were going to town. So.
Oh, we had squirrels in our old apartment, the apartment I lived on in William Street.
Did you really?
Yeah, we'd have squirrels on the walls. You could hear them. They coo like a dove when they're nesting in the wall.
They're bad too.
And I heard them running around in there a bunch of different times. And one night, I heard there's a long hallway. My bedroom is in the back. Living room, kitchen, another room, and then the hallway and the hot water heaters right there. It's just like a French door, like those wooden slat doors. Mm-hmm. It just pulls out. Actually, it's one that slides on a track, and it's 2-piece, and it kind of folds like
accordion door.
Accordion door. Yeah. Well, I heard something at the end of the hall one night. This is like 1 or 2 in the morning. I walk down there. I slide that door open. There's a freaking squirrel in my house. He's got insulation all piled up, and he's got a little bed down there right around the hot water heater. You know, there's a pilot light, but the insulation's packed around there. He's got his little casa right there in my house, and it scared the crap out of me. That's the last thing I thought I seen. I opened that door, and there was a squirrel just sitting there, and he's just like, doing his little squirrel thing with his nose. Man, I just shut the door. I'm like, I'll deal with this in the morning. But they were bad. Somebody told me you can take mothballs and put them. You got to figure out where they're coming in at first.
Yeah, I think mothballs.
And then they don't like mothballs or something.
You're starting to sound like Christmas Vacation. Where's Eddie? Who eats these damn things?
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, right. Well, man, let's wrap this up.
Let's
wrap this up.
This is almost a record. Almost 3 hours. Right?
It's been fun. What
y'all have Bucky's? Y'all don't have Bucky's, do you?
No.
Oh, Bucky's.
What is it? Beef jerky?
It's a gas station.
Oh, what are you eating?
Bucky's candy. My wife buys them.
Oh, okay.
They're just sour. But they have everything at Bucky's. Beef jerky. You name it, they got it. She's a big Bucky's fan.
They got like 400 gas pumps at every location. It's crazy.
They got 400 urinals at every location.
Oh, is that the okay?
Yeah,
I've heard of them.
And they're all just spotless clean.
Is that just Oklahoma, Texas?
Texas, Oklahoma, and I think they built some down in Georgia and Florida. They're starting to stretch out.
I think we have one in Missouri. Do we? I think so.
Dude, they literally have like 150 gas pumps.
Yeah.
Golly.
I remember the first one I saw, I thought it was open, and we were on our way to the Gulf. and it was right outside of Destin or Gulf Shores, and we had pulled in. And I mean, it was as far as you could see, gas pumps just everywhere.
Yeah,
but
they're awesome, and they don't allow truckers, so no semis in there. Yeah, it's an awesome store.
150 pumps.
Dude, there's a bunch. Like, you ain't waiting in line. Just find an empty pump, park your stuff, and go inside. They got barbecue.
Yeah, and you're going to spend from what I hear, you're going to spend an hour inside.
Yeah, and your wife's going to spend a couple $100 on all the trinkets and food and candy and T-shirts, and they got everything in there. Dude, you can even buy a place to burn your fire. They got them real nice fire pits where the thing slides around. It's grated. You can cook on top of it. I'm talking about those big ones, those big, nice metal. Like, they got everything. Bucky's is the deal.
It's like Boomland on steroids.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah, we got a place called Boomland a little bit south of here. It's got a lot of stuff.
Oh, y'all drive by Bucky's now, and you'll be like, I promise you, Gabe, you'll be like, that's what Hallman's talking about. And you'll pull in there, and you'll be like, holy cow.
Well, I'll check it out when I get down that way. All right, man. Let's wrap it up. That was fun. Thanks for hanging out with us. I really appreciate you taking time, and good luck next year.
Thank you, boys, for having me on. I appreciate it. I enjoyed the evening greatly.
Yeah, it was fun. If I get that bus together, I'll definitely be giving you a phone call.
Yeah, get that bus together. Hit me up.
All right.
Thanks, man, for coming on.
All right. Good night.